Chapter 84. One move is enough. In the resurrection battle, life and death are up to fate. Do you still want to participate in it? The old host stared at the calm young man and asked in surprise. The young man smiled and nodded slightly, indicating his final decision. Since both sides have no objection, the resurrection battle will begin now. The old host stared at the young man deeply, and then his powerful voice resounded between heaven and earth again. The old man's announcement undoubtedly set off a climax in the square. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the thin figure in the square. They knew that this figure was going to fight 1 against 5, and one of them was a warrior in the first level of the Void realm. Everyone wanted to know how this figure was going to deal with this resurrection battle. On the stone platform, Wang Meng crossed his arms and looked down at the young man not far away. He said indifferently, "I intended to let you live until the end of the battle. I didn't expect you to be so impatient to seek death. The 5 of us will certainly fulfill your wish." As he spoke, Wang Meng took a step forward. Surging yuan power accompanied by extreme cold energy surged out from his body. At the same time, an icy blue cold energy slowly spread out from the surface of his body. Finally, it condensed into a sparkling and translucent deep blue armor. The yuan power and cold air on the dark blue armor intertwined with each other, and it looked very dazzling. However, the powerful force emitted from the flowing light made many people look more serious. They all knew that the armor on Wang Meng's body was the unique talent of all warriors above the first level of the Void realm. The armor's defensive power was also amazing. After Wang Meng took a step forward, Wang Zheng and the other 4 behind him revealed a ferocious expression. Bright golden nirvana golden clothes appeared on their bodies one after another. "I wonder how many rounds you can withstand under our joint attack," Wang Meng said sarcastically with a gloomy look in his eyes. "Huh. One move. I only need one move to determine the winner." Zhuowen shook his head and said indifferently, stretching out a finger. Wang Meng and the other 4 narrowed their eyes. Immediately after, they sneered, "What a shameless boaster. I don't know where your confidence comes from. You actually dare to say that you will win in one move." Zhuowen smiled. However, there was a chill surging deep within his eyes. Soon after, his 5 fingers were tightly clenched into a fist. An ice-cold blade-like voice spread across the square. "I said, one move is enough." As soon as Zhuowen finished speaking, he clenched his fists tightly. A rich scarlet light immediately erupted from his body. The countless blood veins on the surface of his body exploded like countless bombs. Bang! 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 Muffled sounds echoed in the field. Second sky of rampage. A low roar spread from his throat, and countless bloodlines gathered behind him. In the end, the ape pattern on his back seemed to come to life. With a sudden roar, it turned into a gigantic ape shadow that was hundreds of feet tall and appeared behind him. When the ape shadow appeared, a wave of negative emotions that contained ruthlessness and killing intent immediately spread across the entire square. Many of the weaker ones felt a chill in their hearts when they felt this ruthless emotion, and they actually stood still on the spot, unable to move. What a tyrannical and ruthless aura. What kind of armor technique is this person using, to actually have such power? Everyone's gazes gathered on the figure that was wrapped in countless blood-colored energy. Traces of seriousness finally rose in their eyes. On the Chen family platform, Chen Tong's face was slightly pale. Her gaze was somewhat flickering as she looked at the ape shadow behind Zhuowen. She clearly remembered that in the first round, Zhuowen had used this move to cleanly defeat her. Moreover, she could feel that the power that Zhuowen had used was even stronger than when he fought with her. In other words, when Zhuowen faced her, he had not used his full strength. At this thought, a trace of complexity and humiliation flashed across Chen Tong's beautiful eyes. However, Wang Meng and the other 4 are not easy to deal with. Gaze after gaze turned to look at the 5 figures on the stone platform. At this moment, the 5 of them were somewhat shocked by the commotion caused by Zhuowen. However, their expressions quickly darkened. They clearly understood that if the five of them were unable to finish off Zhuowen even after joining forces, it would be a huge blow to their Wang family's reputation. He does indeed have some ability. However, it is still not enough for us. Wang Zheng, the five of us will attack together. There is no need to hold back. Today, I will make this little bastard pay here. Just as Wang Meng's words sounded out, Wang Zheng and the other three behind him nodded their heads with a dark expression. Extremely terrifying yuan power undulations erupted from their bodies. In a moment, the entire square was like a vacuum due to the powerful yuan power undulations, and several broken rocks actually slowly floated in midair. Attack! A low roar erupted from Wang Meng's throat. Promptly, Wang Zheng and the other three behind him instantly transformed into four shadows. Surging yuan power burst forth from their fists. Mysterious Yin claws. Tiger roar in the forest. Waterbird fists. Pure yang finger. The four of them unleashed their most proficient armor techniques as they viciously dashed towards Zhuowen. Wang Meng, who was at the back of the four, had a cold glint in his eyes. Waves of ice-blue cold chi were emitted from the surface of his body. Finally, his right hand gripped the air as cold chi churned, and a sparkling and translucent long spear instantly appeared in his hand. Wang Meng roared towards the sky as the sole of his foot suddenly stomped on the ground. A powerful force instantly caused the ground to crumble. His muscular body seemed to have transformed into a ghost as he disappeared from his original spot. In the next instant, Wang Meng had already appeared in front of Zhuowen. His hand gripped the long spear as surging yuan power frantically poured into the long spear. Instantly, the long and thin spear transformed into a giant pillar that was dozens of meters tall, bringing with it an endless amount of cold chi and yuan power as it flew towards Zhuowen. Cold Soul Yin Spear. Zhuowen, you can rest in peace now. Wang Meng's thick palm grasped the end of the spear's handle as a crazy smile appeared on his resolute face. He looked at Zhuowen as if he was looking at a dead man. This was his most powerful attack. Coupled with the all-out attack of the four Nirvana Realm warriors, even a warrior in the second level of the Yin Void Realm would not dare to face it head-on. He knew that this time, Zhuowen was doomed. The powerful attacks of Wang Meng and the other four also stirred up a great commotion in the entire arena. Everyone stood up at this moment. Their eyes were unblinkingly gathered on the figure who had been standing at the same spot since the beginning. It was so calm that it was somewhat frightening. Everyone wanted to know what this figure would do next. Compared to the bustling outside, the Zhuo family platform was terrifyingly quiet. No one dared to breathe loudly as they stared at the figure in the middle of the square. They knew that this figure had become the last hope of the Zhuo family in this battle for the marketplace. If this figure also lost, then the Zhuo family would suffer a crushing defeat. Father, the all-out attack of Wang Meng and the other four has reached a level that even a warrior in the second level of the Yin Void Realm would find difficult to deal with. I'm afraid that Zhuowen will not be able to withstand this attack. If he is not careful, he might even lose his life. Zhuo Xiangding said anxiously. Although there was a trace of worry between Zhuo Xiangding's brows, he still looked at the field with a cold expression and said calmly, I believe in Zhuowen. On the stone platform, Zhuowen slightly raised his head. His clear eyes suddenly became incomparably scarlet. The ruthless aura on the surface of his body became even more developed and rich. Looking at the 5 attacks that were rushing straight towards him, Zhuowen did not dare to be the slightest bit careless. In particular, the last long spear that was like a pillar that supported the heavens gave Zhuowen the strongest sense of danger. Howl! The giant ape suddenly took a step forward and its huge fist, with a strong bloody aura, fiercely punched at the 5 attacks that were coming straight at him. The powerful force caused invisible circular ripples to erupt in the air. Boom! 5 ferocious attacks tore through the sky at an astonishing speed. After which, they violently collided with the fists of the blood-red ape under countless fiery gazes. Dong! At the moment of the collision, it seemed that the whole world was silent. Then, everyone was shocked to find that a violent energy crazily exploded in the sky. The energy was like an erupting volcano, becoming gorgeous and colorful in the sky. The violent energy swept out in an unparalleled manner. Many practitioners who were closer to the square were affected by the energy shockwaves and immediately vomited blood. Their figures were miserably shot backwards. On the 4 big platforms, the powerful elders also took action. Vigorous yuan power turned into a half-fan-shaped barrier at this moment, protecting the juniors on the platforms behind them. However, when the energy ripples collided with the barrier and emitted creaking sounds, many people's faces changed. This kind of attack was really beyond the expectations of many people. This kind of commotion only lasted for a while. Then, numerous gazes were cast back at the square. At this moment, 6 figures were facing each other in the square, Pucci. Under the countless gazes, Wang Zheng and the other 3 all vomited a mouthful of blood at the same time. Soon after, the clothes on their bodies exploded and a bloody mist sprayed out from their bodies. They fell to the ground and their auras were extremely weak. How is this possible? At this moment, Wang Meng was also in a rather sorry state. However, he did not suffer any serious injuries. Looking at the 4 fallen figures beside him, his eyes were filled with disbelief. He did not expect that 4 out of the 5 of them would be defeated in an instant. At this moment, the square became extremely silent. Everyone stared blankly at Wang Zheng and the other 3 who were lying on the stone platforms. Even Wang Meng's figure was in a sorry state. A crazy roar immediately broke the silence. Wang Meng's eyes were scarlet red and he looked like a crazy demon. The yuan power in his body seemed as if it did not care about his life as it gathered on the long spear that was hovering above him. At this moment, the long spear and the ape's fist were fiercely facing each other, neither giving way to the other. Zhuowen, I want you dead. Powerful yuan power poured into the long spear and a dazzling blue light flashed on the surface of the long spear. Then, it suddenly thrust forward. Chapter 85. Complete victory. Sensing the cracks on the fist of the ape shadow, Zhuowen, who was shrouded in the shadow, narrowed his eyes. Soon after, his gaze turned indifferent as he looked at Wang Meng, who was in a sorry state. Crack! Like a spider web, the crack spread across the ape's body at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, the ape let out a mournful roar and turned into a pile of red fragments in front of everyone's eyes. Underneath these fragments was a handsome young man. Whoosh! After the long spear broke through the ape's obstruction, it went straight for Zhuowen's forehead. The powerful force even caused black cracks to appear in the air. Slightly raising his head, the young man's mouth revealed a faint smile. There was not the slightest trace of fear on his face. His lips squirmed as a faint voice slowly spread across the entire square. Looks like you still don't have much awareness. Then, I'll make you give up now. Just as his voice faded, the young man suddenly took a step forward. His 5 fingers clenched into fists as surging yuan power gathered in his fists. Streams of dragon-shaped phantoms slowly flowed on the surface of his fists. Primeval Dragon Roar Fist, 9 Dragons Roar. A cold low roar came from the young man's throat. Then, thunderous dragon roars suddenly sounded out in the entire square. Everyone in the square was shocked to discover that 9 dazzling 5-clawed golden dragons had suddenly drilled out from behind the young man's frail body. The surging power turned into invisible ripples that spread across the entire stone platform. Even the hard stone platform was now like tofu, breaking apart inch by inch. Bang! The long spear that was like a pillar that supported the heavens finally arrived in front of Zhuowen. Finally, it fiercely collided with the 9 5-clawed golden dragons. A dazzling light that was as bright as the sun suddenly erupted from the stone platform and spread out, enveloping the entire square in light. Everyone could not help but cover their eyes. Rumble! The deafening sound immediately entered everyone's ears, but the intense light made it impossible for many people to open their eyes. They could only rely on their hearing to imagine the final result of the violent collision in their minds. When the light gradually faded away, what appeared in front of everyone was a ruined square. At this time, the ground within 100 miles of the God Stone Square had completely collapsed, revealing the soft soil underneath. The messy scene caused everyone to suck in a breath of air. The God's Stone Square was hundreds of miles wide, but such a vast square had now turned into a mess of ruins. How much power was needed to create such a scene? Everyone found it hard to believe that such a scene was caused by two juniors. When they thought of this, everyone's eyes focused on the two figures that were still standing at opposite ends of the ruins. The two figures were in a somewhat miserable state. Their clothes were somewhat tattered, and traces of blood flowed out from their exposed skin. Wang Meng. You've lost. The young man standing at the left gently wiped the bloodstains on his hand and said with a rather calm expression. Although this voice was very soft, it was still heard clearly by many people. Immediately, everyone turned around and their eyes gathered on the other figure that was in an even more miserable state. At this time, this figure clenched his fists, and his eyes were filled with fear and unwillingness. When the young man's voice fell, this rather burly figure suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The clothes on the surface of his body were instantly torn, and a thick blood mist erupted from his body. His aura was dispirited, and he fell to the ground, smashing a small hole in the ruins. As this burly figure fell, the entire square fell into a dead silence. Countless gazes gathered on the blood-stained figure that fell straight down, and their mouths slowly opened. Bang! The teacup in Zhuo Xiangding's hand suddenly shattered. His gaze was somewhat dazed as he stared at the figure that was still standing proudly. Traces of tears could not help but swirl in his eyes. We won. We actually won in the end. Zhuo Xiangding laughed somewhat crazily. After so many years, their Zhuo family had finally obtained victory in the city square battle. Moreover, it was a victory achieved through the resurrection battle. Everyone knew how important this victory was. The Zhuo family members behind Zhuo Xiangding also regained their senses. Then, sharp cheers suddenly erupted on the platform. All of the Zhuo family members' faces were flushed red, and their gazes were filled with worship as they looked at the figure in the middle of the square. Their mouths were madly shouting the simple yet extraordinary name of Zhuowen. Zhuowen! 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 The sullen feelings that the Zhuo family members had been suppressing for many years were gradually vented in this moment as they shouted the name Zhuowen. The momentum was also becoming more and more intense. The old host also gradually recovered from his absent-mindedness. His gaze was deep as he looked at the figure in front of him. Then, his vigorous voice suddenly spread throughout the entire square. In the resurrection battle, the Zhuo family has won. In this city square battle, the final victory belongs to the Zhuo family. The moment the old host's vigorous voice rang out, an uproar instantly rang out. Everyone in the square stood up and waved their hands madly. They even followed the Zhuo family members and shouted the name Zhuowen. The sound of their voices rising and falling was deafening in the entire square. A mighty wind blew past, blowing the youth's blood-stained hair. A trace of a tranquil smile appeared on the youth's face. Just like that, he quietly stood in the middle of the ruins, enjoying the wild cheers of countless people. Everyone in the square knew that this figure would leave an extremely deep impression in their hearts. Many years later, they might not be able to forget this tall and tranquil figure. In this kind of environment, this figure was undoubtedly filled with an irresistible charm. Many young girls in the square stared at this figure with extraordinary splendor in their eyes. On the platform, Guyu's jade-like hand lightly covered her cherry lips. There was a trace of unconcealable fluctuation in her beautiful eyes. Even she did not expect that Zhuowen would win the resurrection battle in the end. Looking at the blood-stained figure, for some reason, her heart suddenly beat a few times. A trace of crimson like a ripe apple slowly emerged on her delicate face. Beside Guyu, Master Karaki's face revealed a gratified smile. Obviously, he was quite satisfied with Zhuowen's performance. Meng-er! A furious voice suddenly rang out from the platform. Then, an unfathomable figure suddenly whooshed into the square and helped the unconscious Wang Meng up. This person was the head of the Wang family, Wang Yuanqing. Gently pinching Wang Meng's wrist, Wang Yuanqing's expression became somewhat gloomy. Then, he checked Wang Zheng and the other three one by one. When he found that there were not too many injuries, he sighed in relief. Although Wang Zheng and the other three's injuries were not too serious, Wang Meng's injuries were much more serious. If his injuries were a little more serious, Wang Meng's martial path would have been crippled. What a vicious junior. I didn't expect you to be so heavy-handed. Today, this old man will take the place of the Zhou family to teach you a lesson, you bastard. Wang Yuanqing suddenly turned his head, his expression sinister as he looked at the youth not far away. Then, under everyone's astonished gaze, his figure flashed, his whole body like a vigorous ape, and his entire body rushed straight towards Zhuowen. His palm was extremely surging with yuan power. No one had expected Wang Yuanqing to take action just like that. Moreover, it was against a member of the younger generation. During the competition, Wang Yuanqing had clearly said that the elders could not interfere in the market square battle. Now that the market square battle had ended, he actually took revenge without saying anything. This caused many people to look at Wang Yuanqing with strange gazes. Zhuo Wen's expression turned cold as he gazed at Wang Yuanqing, who was rapidly approaching him. He was able to sense the extremely powerful surging yuan energy within Wang Yuanqing's body. The might of the yuan energy was simply not something he could withstand. Even he did not expect Wang Yuanqing, this old fart, to turn hostile just like that. His skin was already thick to a certain extent. Wang Yuanqing, you old fart. Don't you dare touch a single hair on Zhuowen's head. A rather angry voice suddenly sounded from the Zhuo family platform. Then, everyone saw Zhuo Xiangding's face filled with hatred as he rushed towards Wang Yuanqing. Boom! Zhuo Xiangding's speed was very fast. In an instant, he was in front of Zhuowen. His right palm suddenly blasted out, instantly colliding with Wang Yuanqing's fist and palm. Then, a surge of yuan power spread out, and the two of them immediately took a few steps back with a groan. As the two of them exchanged blows, everyone in the square came to their senses. Many people pointed at Wang Yuanqing and whispered among themselves. It was obvious that they despised Wang Yuanqing's previous actions. However, what surprised everyone was that Wang Yuanqing's face revealed an indifferent expression. His gaze was rather cold as he stared at Zhuowen, who was behind Zhuo Xiangding, and said sinisterly, "Little bastard, you have to pay a certain price for hitting my Wang family's people. Wang Yuanqing, you old fart, do you still have any shame? In the resurrection battle, life and death are originally up to fate. Death and injury are inevitable. As an elder, you actually attacked a junior for such a ridiculous reason. Have you been living like a dog all these years?" Zhuo Xiangding's expression was extremely gloomy. Zhuowen was the hope of the Zhuo family's future. He could not afford to lose him. Moreover, Wang Yuanqing did not show any mercy when he attacked just now. It was obvious that he wanted to cripple Zhuowen. This caused Zhuo Xiangding's eyes to faintly reveal a cold glint. Zhuowen's expression was also extremely ugly. Just now, he did see a strong killing intent in Wang Yuanqing's eyes. He knew that Wang Yuanqing really wanted to kill him. If Zhuo Xiangding did not arrive in time, he was afraid that he would be in a really bad situation. Chapter 86. Gulong Island Expressway. The square fell into a dead silence. Everyone's eyes were focused on the square. In the square, Zhuo Xiangding and Wang Yuanqing were facing each other from a distance. Both of them were faintly exuding a terrifying aura. This aura had far surpassed that of everyone present. The two of them were the two clan heads of the three big clans. They could be considered the top fighters in Rattan Armor City. Their tit-for-tat naturally attracted the attention of many people. Whoosh! Whoosh! A few more whooshing sounds were heard. Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian, who were on the Zhuo family's platform, rushed into the field, looking at Wang Yuanqing with vigilance. Three middle-aged men also came from the Wang family's platform and stood behind Wang Yuanqing, eyeing Zhuo Xiangding with hostility. On the platform, Chen Sheng's eyes flickered as he looked at the arena. A gloating smile appeared on his face. The face of the old man in charge immediately turned gloomy when he saw the two families facing each other from a distance. Just as he was about to step forward to stop the two of them, a voice transmission was suddenly transmitted into his ears. His eyes immediately turned towards the platform of the city lord's mansion. On the platform, a middle-aged man with white hair slowly stood up. His eyes glanced indifferently at the old man. The old host hesitated for a moment before bowing to one of them. His figure flashed and returned to the platform. He stood behind this person without saying a word. The actions of the hosting old man also attracted the attention of quite a number of people. When everyone saw the old man standing respectfully behind a blue-clothed man, a trace of astonishment appeared in their eyes. Zhuo Xiangding's gaze also converged on the blue-clothed man. His face was first startled, but soon after, a trace of reverence appeared on his face. Zhuowen had also sensed Zhuo Xiangding's abnormal behavior. His gaze was also focused on the blue-clothed man. He knew that the person who could make Zhuo Xiangding reveal such an expression definitely had a high status in the city lord's mansion. The middle-aged man's face was rather dignified. There was a trace of wrinkles on his forehead. His face was mature and handsome. He must have been a handsome young master when he was young. However, what made Zhuowen frown was that there was an unfriendly gaze directed at him from beside the middle-aged man. Turning his gaze, Zhuowen suddenly realized that Gu Shang had unknowingly stood beside the middle-aged man and was looking at him with a ferocious expression. Zhuowen's heart sank. He knew that this middle-aged man with a high status had a close relationship with Gu Shang. With Gu Shang's nature of Gu Shang's mansion, he would not let the Zhuo family easily. Father! Gu Shang! Gu Shang looked at Zhuowen in the arena. Gu Shang! Gu Shang! Gu Shang! Gu Shang! Gu Shang's is Zhuowen. For some unknown reason, he would feel extremely displeased every time he saw Zhuowen's calm as water expression. Adding on the fact that he had suffered a great loss at the hands of Zhuowen the last time, his hatred for Zhuowen had become even denser. Although he was a little surprised that Zhuowen had successfully challenged the revival battle, the person in charge of this market battle was his father. So what if Zhuowen had successfully challenged the revival battle? The final decision was in the hands of his father. So what if he has won? At times, an individual's strength is useless. Only a powerful faction can decide everything. Zhuowen, since you have offended me, Gu Shang, you can forget about having an easy time. Gu Shang's gaze was dark and cold as it swept over Zhuowen. He quietly said in his heart. The middle-aged man glanced at Gu Shang. His gaze immediately focused on the young figure in the arena. His somewhat magnetic voice slowly spread throughout the entire arena. I am the person in charge of this market battle, Gu Lai. There is no need for your two clans to argue now. I will make a decision later. Gu Lai's words immediately caused an uproar. From his tone, Gu Lai's words were very courteous. However, it was obvious that the Zhuo family had won the market battle this time. Yet, Gu Lai said that he would make a decision later. These words were clearly biased towards the Wang clan. Zhuo Xiangding's expression sunk slightly. He did not expect that not only did Gu Lai not announce that the Zhuo family was the victor this time, but he was also stalling for time. At this moment, Wang Yuanqing, who was standing in front of Zhuo Xiangding, had a respectful expression as he cupped his hands towards Gu Lai. He said, although the Zhuo family's Zhuowen has won the revival battle this time, this person's heart is vicious and his methods are vicious. Every move he makes is aimed at a vital spot. If such a vicious and merciless person becomes the champion of the market battle, I'm afraid that it will go against the principles of the market battle. I hope that Sir Gu Lai can be impartial. Wang Yuanqing's words immediately caused the members of the Zhuo family to hiss. Quite a number of people stared at him with furious gazes. They did not expect that Wang Yuanqing, the head of the Wang clan, would act so disgustingly. The battle originally had some injuries, but in Wang Yuanqing's words, it became vicious and merciless. However, what caused everyone to be taken aback was that Gu Lai actually nodded his head in a serious manner. His tone was rather solemn as he said, the words of the head of the Wang clan are reasonable. Although Zhuowen has won the market battle, his methods are too vicious. How about this? The rules of the market battle cannot be abolished. Since Zhuowen has won the revival battle, then the Zhuo family will naturally be this time's champion. However, because Zhuowen's methods are too vicious, the wager between the two clans will not be counted. There should be no objections to this arrangement, right? Gu Lai's expression was rather calm. His face was filled with indifference. Gotcha! Zhuo Xiangding clenched his fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. His eyes were blood-red as he stared at Gu Lai, who was on the platform. Everyone knew that his words were biased towards the Wang clan. The Zhuo family did not fight to the death in the market battle for a mere title. It was clear that the Wang clan had already lost the 10 market battles to the Zhuo family. Now, Gu Lai wanted to cancel the wager of the 10 market battles with just a few words. Anyone who heard this would be extremely furious. Standing behind Zhuo Xiangding, Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and stared closely at Gu Lai's figure on the platform. He knew that Gu Lai was making things difficult for him this time because of Gu Shang. He also did not think that the city lord's actions would be so tyrannical. With just a few words, they wanted to strip the Zhuo family of the market battle rights that they deserved. Wang Yuanqing stared at the Zhuo family with a mocking expression. Finally, his gaze focused on Zhuowen at the back. He crossed his arms and said indifferently, "Actually, it's not impossible to transfer the market battle rights to the Zhuo family. However, the condition is that Zhuowen has to kneel down and apologize to Meng and break one of his arms. As long as he kneels down and apologizes and breaks one of his arms, the Wang clan will immediately hand over the market battle rights to the Zhuo family." At this point, Wang Yuanqing's eyes looked meaningfully at the young figure standing behind Zhuo Xiangding. Zhuo Xiangding glared angrily and shouted coldly, "Wang Yuanqing, you old bastard! The Wang clan is really something. Even at this juncture, you still dare to deny it. No wonder you're the #1 clan in Rattan Armor City. Let me tell you, if you want Zhuowen to apologize, don't even think about it. Since you don't plan to give it to us, the Zhuo family will take it by force." As Zhuo Xiangding spoke, a strong wave of origin energy exploded from his body. This wave of origin energy was like a vast ocean, spreading throughout the entire plaza. Many people trembled under this wave of origin energy and could not stand steadily. With the eruption of Zhuo Xiangding, Zhuo Baitian and Zhuo Dingtian behind him also erupted with strong yuan qi. Moreover, there was a blazing yang qi drifting out from their bodies. This was the unique aura of a corporeal yang martial artist. Corporeal yang realm? I didn't expect the Zhuo family to have another corporeal yang warrior. No wonder you dare to talk about taking it by force. Wang Yuanqing's pupils shrank as he looked at Zhuo Dingtian and sneered. But do you think the Zhuo family is the only one developing? The Wang clan is also developing. We have more corporeal yang warriors than the Zhuo family. As he spoke, Wang Yuanqing did not want to be outdone and exploded with an aura that was not weaker than Zhuo Xiangding's. The 3 people behind him also exploded with auras that were not weaker than corporeal yang warriors. Obviously, these 3 people were also corporeal yang warriors. Zhuo Xiangding's face suddenly darkened. The reason why the Wang clan was ranked first among the 3 great clans was that they had one more corporeal yang warrior than the other 2 clans. Originally, Zhuo Xiangding thought that the Zhuo family had one more corporeal yang warrior after Zhuo Dingtian's promotion. Therefore, he took it for granted that with his current strength, he was not afraid of the Wang clan. However, he did not expect the Wang clan to also have a corporeal yang warrior. This made Zhuo Xiangding's face even more gloomy. The Wang clan had one more corporeal yang warrior than the Zhuo family. If they fought, the Zhuo family would undoubtedly be at a disadvantage. The commotion between the 2 clans also attracted the attention of everyone in the square. Everyone's eyes were filled with a fiery passion as they stared at the 2 clans that were ready to fight. A clash between the 2 top factions in Rattan Armor City was a rare sight. On the platform of the city lord's mansion, Gu Lai looked at the Zhuo family with an unhappy expression and said coldly, "Your Zhuo family is quite bold. Without the permission of the city lord's mansion, you actually dare to rob. It seems like you don't put the city lord's mansion in your eyes." As he spoke, an aura that pressured the entire place erupted from Gu Lai's body. Two auras that were a mixture of red and white were gradually born from within his body. They transformed into a scorching sun that alternated between red and white. The powerful aura caused everyone to not dare to carelessly make a sound. The power of yin and yang fusion. He is actually a corporeal king realm warrior. This lord has actually advanced to the corporeal king realm. There was an uproar in the square. Everyone looked at the blue figure standing quietly on the platform in shock. It should be known that even the heads of the three big clans had not advanced to the corporeal king realm. At most, they were only half a step into the corporeal king realm. The person in charge sent by the city lord's mansion was actually a corporeal king realm warrior that far surpassed the heads of the three big clans. This made everyone deeply feel the depth of the city lord's mansion's foundation. Just as Gu Lai was about to attack the Zhua family, another equally powerful aura exploded on the platform. This aura was like a gentle stream of water that filled the entire square. It immediately offset the pressure that Gu Lai created. Brother Gu Lai, you have gone a little overboard. Zhuowen is my disciple. I hope you can give me face and let the Zhua family go. Chapter 87. Chapter 87. Have a falling out. This Zhuowen does have some ability. He actually won the resurrection battle. However, he's still too weak for me. If he were a little stronger, he would be qualified to be my opponent. At the top of a magnificent building, the white-clothed young man glanced at the distant God Stone Square with an indifferent expression and spoke in an indifferent manner. That is indeed the case. However, this child's talent is not inferior to yours. After all, he seems to be only 15 years old. The purple-robed man standing beside the white-robed young man said calmly with a gentle smile on his face. I admit this kid's talent, but the square is quite lively now. From the looks of it, it seems like the Wang family doesn't want to admit it. Even Uncle Gu Lai is partial to the Wang family. I wonder how the Zhua family will deal with this. The young man in white smiled and looked at the God Stone Square in the distance with interest. Huh. Gu Lai isn't siding with the Wang family. He just wants to intimidate the Zhua family. I heard that his son, Gu Shang, was beaten up by that brat, Zhuowen. He probably wants to vent his anger for his son. The purple-clothed man narrowed his eyes as he looked towards the direction of the God Stone Plaza with a smile. So it's that silk pants Gu Shang. I really don't know how Uncle Gu Lai, with his illustrious reputation, could give birth to such a trash. Father, Uncle Gu Lai's actions seem to be against the city lord's mansion's style. Aren't you going to mediate? The purple-clothed man laughed and said, Gu Lai is the most protective. Moreover, he dotes on Gu Shang, his only son, a lot. I had already expected something like this to happen. However, Grandmaster Karaki is currently at the Divine Stone Plaza. I presume Gu Lai won't act rashly. Let's just watch the show for now. On the God Stone Plaza, Gu Lai looked at Grandmaster Karaki in front of him with some fear. He said in a deep voice, Grandmaster Karaki, the insignificant Zhua family actually dares to offend the dignity of our city lord's residence. If we don't teach them a lesson, they won't be able to convince the masses. I hope Grandmaster won't stop this Gu. Master Karaki smiled, but his slightly curved eyes were cold. He said faintly, this old man hasn't accepted a disciple for a long time. Now that I've finally met a talented one, do you think I'll let you teach my disciple's family a lesson? Grandmaster Tsangmu, are you really not planning on stepping aside? Gu Lai narrowed his eyes and asked in a low voice. Grandmaster Karaki did not say anything else. However, the rich mental energy on his body was like a cheetah that was ready to pounce. The mental energy that was faintly revealed was somewhat terrifying. If it were to explode, it would not be a joke. Gu Lai's eyes narrowed slightly. Although his cultivation had already reached the Light King realm, Grandmaster Karaki was a bona fide rank 3 Arcana Master. He was no weaker than him. Moreover, what Gu Lai feared the most was the endless methods of Arcana Masters, as well as the various powerful origin crystals. Even if he were to face Grandmaster Karaki, it would be difficult for him to do so. Taking a deep look at Grandmaster Karaki, Gulai grinned and said, "Since Grandmaster Karaki has said so, I'll give you some face. However, I hope you won't interfere in the enmity between the Wang family and the Zhou family. Otherwise, I won't just stand by and watch." After saying that, Gulai waved his sleeves and returned to his seat. His face was as calm as water. No one knew what he was thinking right now. Gu Shang unwillingly glanced at the young figure in the middle of the field. In the end, he could only return to his seat dejectedly. He knew that since Grandmaster Karaki had already stepped forward, it was impossible for his father to deal with the Zhou family. Even if father doesn't interfere, the Wang family's foundation is enough to greatly damage the Zhou family. Their goal is the same. Gu Shang thought darkly in his heart. Gu Yu frowned slightly as she glanced at Gu Shang and Gu Lai. She also knew that the two of them were deliberately targeting the Zhou family. However, she couldn't get a word in edgewise. Although she was the daughter of the city lord, Gu Shang's father, Gu Lai's position in the city lord's mansion was only second to her own father. Even if she pleaded for mercy, it wouldn't be of much use. This was also why she had remained silent from the beginning. In the field, the Zhou and Wang families also noticed the scene on the platform of the city lord's mansion. Wang Yuanqing's face revealed a trace of regret when he realized that Gu Lai didn't interfere because of Grandmaster Karaki. However, a trace of ferocity soon appeared on his face. In his opinion, even if Gu Lai didn't interfere, the Wang family could easily defeat the Zhou family. After all, the Wang family had one more Yang realm warrior than the Zhou family. Wang Yuanqing lightly glanced at Zhuowen, who was standing behind Zhuo Xiangding and the other two. He then whispered to a middle-aged man behind him, "When the battle with the Zhou family starts, secretly get rid of that brat Zhuowen. This brat's talent is truly terrifying. If we don't get rid of him now, there will be no end of trouble in the future." After speaking, Wang Yuanqing smiled sinisterly at Zhuo Xiangding and said, "Head of the Zhou family, if you really want to obtain the management rights of the 10 markets, then let us fight. If you can win against us, the wager will still belong to the Zhou family." Zhuo Xiangding and the other two's faces immediately became incomparably angry. Wang Yuanqing was too thick-skinned. The wager originally belonged to the Zhou family, but now it was being used as a wager again. How could such an action not make the Zhou family angry? Attack! Wang Yuanqing could also see that Grandmaster Tsangmu was being held back by Gu Lai, so it was impossible for him to deal with the Wang clan. Therefore, he was fearless at this moment. With a cold shout, the person in the lead emitted a dense yuan power, and his entire body shot towards Zhuo Xiangding like an arrow leaving the bow. Bang! Powerful yuan power undulations were like huge waves in the ocean, spreading throughout the entire plaza. Many weaker fighters could not help but retreat under this undulation. Boom! Wang Yuanqing and Zhuo Xiangding finally collided like two magnets. A violent explosion occurred at the point where their fists and palms collided. The gravel on the ground turned into powder under the explosive impact and drifted away. While Zhuo Xiangding and Wang Yuanqing were fighting, Zhuo Dingtian and Zhuo Baitian were also fighting with the other two middle-aged men of the Wang family. Surging yuan qi constantly spread out, causing a destructive force that far exceeded the level of Zhuo Xiangding and Wang Meng. If it weren't for the experts from the city lord's mansion maintaining the defensive measures of the entire field, there would probably be some casualties in the field. Zhuowen also looked at the three battlefields in horror. This was the first time he had seen a battle between warriors above the corporeal Yang realm. However, he also knew that he shouldn't stay here for long. Just as Zhuowen was about to leave the field, Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded in his mind, "Zhuowen, be careful behind you." An ominous premonition arose in Zhuowen's mind. Then, without thinking, he suddenly punched behind him. Second Sky of Rampage. Primeval Dragon Roar Fist, 9 Dragons Roar. A low roar came out of his mouth. Then, his muscles were suddenly enveloped in a red light. The ape shadow behind him appeared again. The moment the ape's shadow appeared, 9 giant 5-clawed golden dragons surged out of its body and rushed behind it. Boom! Zhuowen only felt a trace of a huge force coming from behind him. Then, he was shocked to find that the huge ape shadow was suddenly punched through by a fist. The ape shadow just let out a sad cry and immediately dissipated. Rumble. The fist didn't stop there. With an oppressive force, it once again slammed into the 9 five-clawed golden dragons. A dazzling light suddenly exploded. Zhuowen was shocked to discover that the powerful 5-clawed golden dragons were actually crumbling inch by inch under this fist like paper. Only the 9th dragon slightly blocked this fist. However, it only blocked it for a while before it disappeared with a sad cry. Puff! Zhuowen immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Because of this huge force, he was sent flying. After rolling on the ground for more than 10 meters, the tip of his foot pushed off the ground and his feet slammed into the ground. It wasn't until he drew another 10 meters in the ground that he was able to withstand the aftermath of the huge force. Zhuowen's right hand gently covered his chest. Now, he only felt a burning pain in his chest. Moreover, every breath he took was accompanied by a trace of pain. Obviously, his lungs had suffered some damage. Unexpectedly, you were able to block my attack. No wonder you were able to challenge the resurrection battle successfully. A rather cold voice slowly entered Zhuowen's ears. He looked up and saw a middle-aged man with a cold expression standing more than 10 meters away, coldly looking at him. Zhuowen recognized that this middle-aged man was one of the 3 young corporeal realm warriors standing behind Wang Yuanqing. Thinking of this, Zhuowen's heart suddenly became gloomy. His strength had just reached the Yin Void realm. Facing a young corporeal realm warrior was simply like striking a stone with an egg. He had no chance of winning. Zhuowen's battle immediately attracted the attention of other people in the square. When they saw that Zhuowen's opponent was actually a genuine young corporeal realm warrior, the square was suddenly in an uproar. Just now, I saw with my own eyes that the Wang family's young corporeal realm warrior intended to sneak an attack on Zhuowen. However, he didn't succeed. Moreover, Zhuowen even took a blow from him. What? Zhuowen actually took a blow from that young corporeal realm warrior. He is only in the Yin Void realm, but he can actually take a blow from a young corporeal realm warrior. Indeed, but that blow was obviously not easy to take. Zhuowen is now injured and in a very bad state. The uproar in the square grew louder and louder. Many people were filled with righteous indignation and began to curse the Wang family for being despicable and shameless. They actually used a young corporeal realm warrior to bully a warrior who had just reached the Yin Void realm. On the platform, looking at the injured young figure in the square, Master Karaki could no longer remain calm. He slammed the tea table and was about to save Zhuowen. However, the moment Master Karaki stood up, a powerful aura suddenly came from not far away. Then, a blue figure stood in front of Master Karaki. Chapter 88. Black Tortoise Armor, Gu Lai, don't go overboard. Grandmaster Karaki's expression became uglier and uglier as he stared coldly at Gu Lai. The corner of Gu Lai's mouth twitched as he stared back at Grandmaster Karaki, unwilling to be outdone. He said indifferently, if Grandmaster acts on his own accord, I naturally won't just stand by and watch. Gu Yu, who had been silent, finally could not stand it anymore. Gu Lai's actions against the Zhuo family were really too much. Moreover, when she saw the sorry figure of the young man, she did not know why, but she could not bear it. Uncle Gu Lai, you've seen Zhuowen's potential. As long as he continues to develop, he will definitely become a peerless expert in the future. Our city lord's mansion has always tried to rope in future experts like him. Moreover, it's not worth offending such a young expert for a mere market battle. Moreover, this young expert is a talented arcana master. A talent like this is worthy of our city lord's mansion's attention. Gu Lai indifferently glanced at Gu Yu beside him. He smiled faintly and said, although that is the case, this child is vicious and merciless. Even if our city lord's mansion treats this child with good intentions, he may still harbor thoughts of betrayal in the future. It's better to get rid of such an unstable factor, so as to prevent him from harming our city lord's mansion in the future. When Gu Yu heard this, anger immediately surfaced on her face. Gu Lai's words were very obvious. He planned to get rid of Zhuowen directly. She did not expect that Gu Lai would want to get rid of Zhuowen for the sake of venting his anger after he had only taught Gu Shang a lesson that day. You, Uncle Gu Lai, I will truthfully report today's matter to father. Such a talent has finally appeared in our Rattan Armor City, yet you actually plan to suppress and restrain him. Gu Yu was so angry that his entire body began to tremble. What you're saying is wrong. Father did not suppress the Zhuo family at all. The one who did was the Zhuo family's enemy, the Wang family. Our city lord's mansion did not do anything. If that brat Zhuowen dies in the hands of the Wang family, it can't be blamed on our city lord's mansion. Gu Shang, who was behind Gu Lai, said in a strange tone, his face full of pride. Gu Yu originally wanted to say something, but a skinny hand patted her shoulder. Grandmaster Karaki's stooped body slowly in front of her. Gu Lai's mansion, since you're not benevolent, then, don't blame me for being unjust. If anything happens to Zhuowen this time, then don't even think about receiving any funding from me, Sangmu. I will also leave Vine Armor City and return to the Arcane Guild directly. Gu Lai's expression changed when he heard Grandmaster Karaki's words. An Arcanist was very useful to a city. It was because of the presence of an Arcanist that other cities did not dare to provoke Rattan Armor City. It was also because Rattan Armor City had Grandmaster Karaki's presence that a small city like Rattan Armor City could be very prosperous. Gu Yu's pretty face also changed drastically. Many of the defensive formations in Rattan Armor City were created by Grandmaster Karaki. It was because of these defensive formations that Rattan Armor City was impregnable. If Grandmaster Karaki really left, then Rattan Armor City's defenses would definitely drop by a level. By then, it was very likely that other cities that were eyeing Rattan Armor City covetously would take advantage of the situation to invade. Uncle Gu Lai, don't you understand? Zhuowen's mental power talent is very powerful. Even Grandmaster Karaki thinks highly of him. If our city lord's mansion does our best to rope in such a talent, then Rattan Armor City will have another powerful Arcanist in the future. By then, Rattan Armor City can completely develop into a mid-level city. Gu Yu was also a little anxious at this moment. She hurriedly tried to persuade Gu Lai. At this moment, Gu Lai's face was extremely gloomy. Originally, he thought that Zhuowen was only a disciple that Grandmaster Karaki had casually taken in. He was not valued at all, so he did not care about Zhuowen. However, he had not expected such a strong reaction from Grandmaster Karaki. He knew better than anyone how important Grandmaster Karaki was to Rattan Armor City, so he was a little hesitant right now. Just as Gu Lai was hesitating, Gu Shang's face was a little anxious. He was determined to kill Zhuowen today, so he used a voice that only the two of them could hear behind Gu Lai and said, "Father, Zhuowen must be eliminated. He must have seen what you did just now. If we let him develop with his vicious methods, I'm afraid he won't forgive us easily. At that time, we'll be in trouble." Gu Lai was stunned. Then, a trace of viciousness flashed through his eyes. He clasped his hands at Grandmaster Karaki and said, "Grandmaster Karaki, this is a matter between the Zhuo and Wang families after all. It's best that outsiders like us don't get involved. If you're determined to get involved, then I can only offend you." Gu Yu was stunned. Then, she angrily said, "Uncle Gu Lai, you'll regret this. Gu Lai, I really didn't think that you'd be so short-sighted. You want to kill Zhuowen just to vent your anger for your son. Since you're in the way, I won't be able to do anything. However, I think you'll regret this." Grandmaster Karaki's face was extremely cold as he glanced at Gu Lai. Then, his eyes that were filled with coldness slowly gathered on Gu Shang behind him. A trace of a cruel smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Gu Lai's cultivation had already entered the Zhao King realm. If the two of them were to fight, it would be very difficult to determine the victor in a short amount of time. Moreover, Grandmaster Karaki knew that Zhuowen had some trump cards. For example, the rank 2 origin crystal, the mysterious turtle shell, that he gifted to Zhuowen last time. Therefore, he didn't believe that Zhuowen would die so easily. However, the anger in his heart made Grandmaster Kuraki very displeased. After all, no one would feel good when they saw their disciple being beaten up. Right now, he was only waiting for the city lord, Guyu Tian, to arrive. Such a big matter had happened in the market battle this time. Guyu Tian definitely knew about it. When the time came, even Gu Lai wouldn't be able to do anything. In the arena, Zhuowen crawled up from the ground in a rather sorry state. At this moment, his entire body was covered with hideous wounds. Drops of blood continuously flowed out from his wounds. It was an abnormally terrifying sight. On the other hand, although Zhuo Xiangding and the others were very worried about Zhuowen, the three of them were already entangled with the people from the Wang family. They couldn't free themselves to help Zhuowen at all. They could only watch as Zhuowen was suppressed by the middle-aged man. After letting out a light breath, Zhuowen nimbly retrieved an origin-gathering pill from his Qianquan bag and threw it into his mouth. As he felt his origin power slowly recover, his heart gradually calmed down. However, his eyes were unusually vigilant as he stared at the middle-aged man not far in front of him. This was the 5th time he had been sent flying by the middle-aged man. If it weren't for the body-tempering effects of the violent blood-beast body and the origin-gathering pill's replenishment, as well as the soul skill's undying essence, he wouldn't have been able to hold on. Furthermore, the middle-aged man didn't seem to be in a hurry to kill Zhuowen. Every time he attacked Zhuowen, he only used a casual punch to forcefully break Zhuowen's prepared moves. There was a playful smile on his face the entire time. He smiled bitterly. He finally understood the huge gap between the Yin illusory realm and the corporeal Yang realm. Furthermore, he also learned from Xiao He that the middle-aged man in front of him had only just entered the corporeal Yang realm. Even at this level, Zhuowen wasn't his opponent at all. At this moment, he also realized that his strength was too weak. Xiao He, what should we do now? Why don't you lend me your dragon aura again? Zhuowen was also a little flustered at this moment. He repeatedly asked for Xiao He's opinion. Brat, this Dragon Lord's dragon aura is so precious. How can I give it to you just like that? Hasn't the sovereign dragon cauldron in your body already refined the Nirvana demon flame? The Nirvana demon flame's strength is very impressive. If you release all of the Nirvana demon flame in the sovereign dragon cauldron, even a corporeal Yang realm expert would be seriously injured. Xiao He's lazy voice was slowly transmitted over. Zhuowen's eyes immediately lit up when he heard this. However, he quickly rejected it. Although the Nirvana demon flame's strength is not bad, its demonic nature is too strong. I don't dare to touch it for too long. Furthermore, I usually only use a small portion of the demon flame when I refine pills. I don't dare to release all of it. If I release all of it, I'm afraid that it will be very difficult for me to control it. Moreover, releasing the Nirvana demon flame requires a period of time. Do you think that this fellow in front of me will give me time to slowly unleash the Nirvana demon flame? I'm afraid that he will directly use all of his strength to interrupt me when he feels that something is amiss. At that time, won't I be finished? He. As long as you can block him, don't you coincidentally have an item in your Qianquan bag? That item is sufficient to block the attack of a corporeal Yang realm expert. Xiao He laughed. Mysterious turtle shield? Zhuowen's eyes suddenly brightened. He immediately took out a dark green crystal from his Qianquan bag. All right. Brat, I am also tired of playing with you. Now, it is time to finish you off. The middle-aged man, who was standing a short distance away from Zhuowen, looked at the young man in front of him, who appeared to have descended into a daze, with disdain. Looks like you have been beaten silly. However, this is also good. To me, being able to personally see a genius die in my own hands is perhaps a very wonderful feeling. As he spoke, the middle-aged man's legs suddenly bounced. A powerful force immediately shattered the ground. An intense sound of rushing wind spread out like a bellows. The middle-aged man's hands were intertwined together. A powerful yuan power formed a turbulent wave around his body. With a swoosh sound, the man instantly arrived in front of Zhuowen. His right fist was wrapped in a powerful yuan power that burst forth. Suddenly, he violently punched at the spot between Zhuowen's eyebrows. "Go to hell, brat!" Zephyr Palm. The battle between Zhuowen and the middle-aged man immediately attracted the attention of many people. However, after everyone saw that the middle-aged man had used all of his strength, a trace of regret involuntarily appeared on their faces. They knew that a genius who had slowly risen was about to die in front of them. It is really a pity. Zhuowen was able to successfully challenge the resurrection battle. This already shows that this brat's aptitude and temperament are excellent. It is a pity that he is going to die here. That's right. After all, he is facing a corporeal Yang realm expert. With his strength that has just entered the Yin Void realm, he is no match for him at all. Just as everyone was silently regretting, the middle-aged man's palm had already fiercely struck the young man in front of him. A trace of bloodthirsty madness even appeared on the man's face. Boom! Chapter 89. Release. Nirvana demon flame. The middle-aged man's eyes abruptly shrunk. His gaze was shocked as he looked at the dark green hidden armor that had appeared in front of him. The hidden armor was as tall as a person. Its surface was covered with crack-like lines. Its outer appearance was very similar to a tortoise shell. The middle-aged man felt as though he had struck an indestructible rock when he struck this strange hidden armor. There was no reaction at all. Moreover, a powerful rebound force gradually spread from the hidden armor to his arms. A muffled groan sounded. The middle-aged man suddenly took over 10 steps back. His toes pressed gently on the ground before he stopped his body. He looked at the young man in front of him in disbelief and cried out sharply, "Tier 2 Yuan crystal." Although the middle-aged man's voice was not loud, the people in the square were not weak. All of them had clearly heard the content of the middle-aged man's words. Quite a number of people inhaled a breath of cold air when they heard the words Tier 2 Yuan crystal. Quite a number of people were not unfamiliar with Yuan crystals. They contained an unbelievable strength within them. Although there were quite a number of Yuan crystals circulating in Vine Armor City, and even the 3 great clans had some Yuan crystal reserves, those were only Tier 1 Yuan crystals. A Tier 1 Yuan crystal was considered an extremely common Yuan crystal. With Grandmaster Tsangmu's Tier 3 Arcana Master strength, he was able to randomly create many Tier 1 Yuan crystals. However, a Tier 2 Yuan crystal was different. This was because the strength of a Tier 2 Yuan crystal was comparable to a corporeal Yang expert. It was not easy to create such a Yuan crystal. Even Grandmaster Tsangmu had a high failure rate when creating a Tier 2 Yuan crystal. It was because of this extremely high failure rate that it was extremely difficult to see a shadow of a Tier 2 Yuan crystal in Vine Armor City. If there was one, it would only exist on Grandmaster Tsangmu. Now that Zhuowen was able to take out a Tier 2 Yuan crystal all of a sudden, it naturally caused quite a number of people to feel uncertain. However, when they recalled that Zhuowen was Grandmaster Tsangmu's disciple, quite a number of people felt some relief in their hearts. It is unexpected that Grandmaster is so generous. He is even willing to give out a Tier 2 Yuan crystal. The expression of Gu Lai on the platform was a little stern. He knew that since even a Tier 2 Yuan crystal was given out, Zhuowen's position in Tsangmu's heart was definitely not low. Moreover, with this Grade 2 origin crystal in hand, it would probably be very difficult to kill Zhuowen. He knew that if Zhuowen did not die this time, Zhuowen would definitely hate him and his son. Thinking of this, Gu Lai frowned slightly and felt some regret in his heart. After all, the conflict between Zhuowen and Gu Shang was only a small conflict. Now that he had dealt with it in such a way, it had instantly intensified the conflict. Grandmaster Karaki ignored Gu Lai. Instead, he looked at the arena with a grave expression. He knew that the Grade 2 Essence Crystal Black Tortoise Shell could only block 3 attacks from a corporeal Yang cultivator. After that, it would lose its effect. At that time, Zhuowen would still be in a bad situation. In the arena, the middle-aged man rubbed his slightly numb wrist and sinisterly said, "I didn't think that you would actually have something like a second-grade yuan crystal on you. No wonder you've been so calm from the beginning. However, I think that this second-grade yuan crystal also has a certain limit. Once this limit is broken, the yuan crystal will naturally not be able to protect you." Zhuowen did not reply. His face was as calm as water. His right hand touched between his eyebrows. Immediately, 9 sword shadows flew out and swept towards the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man curled the corners of his mouth and casually knocked down the 9 sword shadows. He said somewhat carelessly, "Boy, your attack is too weak. The gap between the Yin Void realm and the corporeal Yang realm is not something you can imagine. If you know what's good for you, it's best that you hand over the Grade 2 Essence Crystal in your hand and surrender. Perhaps I can leave you with an intact corpse." Moreover, before the middle-aged man finished speaking, he suddenly saw the youth not far from him. The youth's right hand touched between his eyebrows again. Then, the shadow of a broken 3-legged cauldron suddenly drilled out. At the same time, a strange burning sensation suddenly rose in the entire space. Feeling the sudden burning sensation in the air, the middle-aged man's pupils suddenly shrank. This was because he could feel that the strange burning sensation was coming from the youth who had a strange smile on his face. More accurately, it was coming from the broken cauldron in the youth's hand. This kind of burning sensation. The middle-aged man suddenly felt a little dry in his mouth and tongue. Moreover, an impatient feeling rose in his heart for no reason, making him want to vent it. Boom! The bottom of the cauldron had 3 spouts. The youth's right hand lightly touched the bottom of the cauldron. Suddenly, a jet of black flame suddenly erupted from the 3 spouts. Finally, it slowly gathered at the top of the cauldron. If someone paid attention, they would notice that the black flame gathered at the top of the cauldron had a faint shape of a skull. Swish! As soon as the black flame appeared outside the cauldron, it seemed to be able to burn the air. It made a piercing sound, like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves. It gave people a hair-raising feeling. An even hotter feeling spread throughout the entire air. The originally cool and refreshing plaza suddenly became unbearably hot. Moreover, this kind of hot temperature continued to rise. The ground even began to dry up and crack. Waves of transparent heat continued to spread, causing one's vision to become somewhat blurry. Everyone's attention in the square was attracted by the movement on Zhuowen's side. One by one, they turned their eyes to Zhuowen's side. Zhuo Xiangding, Wang Yuanxing, and the other 5 people who were originally fighting against each other also couldn't help but turn their eyes to Zhuowen's side because of the sudden heat in the square. When everyone saw a very strange black flame floating in front of Zhuowen, the square suddenly fell into a moment of silence. It was as if many people couldn't recognize the black flame released by Zhuowen at this time. This is impossible. How can this bastard Zhuowen have this kind of thing? Wang Shua, hurry up and leave. Zhuowen is in danger now. Wang Yuanxing's pupils suddenly shrank as he stared at the flame. Then, as if he had thought of something, he hurriedly shouted at the middle-aged man standing in front of Zhuowen. After saying that, Wang Yuanxing wanted to fly over. However, how could Zhuo Xiangding let him leave so easily? He blocked Wang Yuanxing's path and said with an indifferent expression, "Wang Yuanxing, your opponent is me. Don't even think about leaving." Originally, Zhuo Xiangding was very worried about Zhuowen's safety. When he was fighting with Wang Yuanxing, he would occasionally pay attention to Zhuowen in the square. It was only when he found out that Zhuowen actually had a second-grade crystal that he secretly let out a sigh of relief. And now, Zhuowen had created a strange black flame. Although Zhuo Xiangding didn't know the origin of the black flame, from Wang Yuanxing's ugly expression and the strange power contained in the black flame, this thing was very unusual. Now that Zhuowen was in the process of using it, how could he let Wang Yuanxing ruin it? Zhuo Xiangding, you old bastard, do you know what that thing is? Once that thing touches you, it will not stop until you die. If anything happens to Wang Shua, your Zhuo family will suffer the revenge of our Wang family. Wang Yuanxing was anxious, but he was helpless because Zhuo Xiangding's strength was on par with his. He simply couldn't help Wang Shuo, who didn't know what was going on. Wang Yuanqing, we have long been enemies with your Wang family. Do you think this old man will be afraid of your Wang family's revenge? Zhuo Xiangding laughed and suddenly urged Yuan Li to fiercely hit Wang Yuanqing with his palm. On the platform, Master Karaki suddenly crushed the teacup in his hand. His eyes were somewhat dull as he looked at the black flame in front of Zhuowen. His mouth unconsciously opened wide. Where did this little guy get this thing? It seems that the black flame is actually under his control. How is this possible? How did he do it? In the square, the middle-aged man named Wang Shuo naturally heard Wang Yuanqing's exclamation. Moreover, he could also feel that the black flame in the hands of the young man in front of him was somewhat terrifying. Looking up, he found that the young man was still holding the round cauldron in his hands. At the bottom of the round cauldron, the black flame was constantly rising, gathering more and more at the top, and the power was also becoming more and more terrifying. Although I don't know what this kid is doing, I can't let him continue using it. However, I can't let him continue to use it. Otherwise, I'm afraid that it will be really bad. Wang Shuo made a prompt decision. His legs slammed into the ground, and the powerful force caused the ground to crack. Immediately, his whole body flew towards Zhuowen like an arrow released from a bow. This kid is a little strange. This time, I will not hold back. I must kill this kid. Thousands of thoughts flashed through his mind, but Wang Shuo's movements were not slow. Wang Shuo's hands suddenly changed a few seals in front of his chest, and powerful Yuan Li immediately gathered towards his hands. After a while, a golden light seal was formed in the middle of his palms. Earth rank mid-level armor skill, golden stone seal. A low roar came from his throat. Wang Shuo's right hand suddenly formed a seal, and the golden light seal suddenly turned into a huge golden stone platform in the air. The golden stone platform was like a mountain, and it fiercely suppressed the motionless figure in the same place. Boom! An intense sound, like the collapse of a mountain, suddenly erupted. The entire square trembled at this moment, and many people stared blankly as the huge golden stone platform enveloped Zhuowen's small and skinny figure. Before the crowd could regain their senses, a rather calm voice slowly sounded from below the huge golden stone platform. You're called Wang Shuo, right? To be able to force me to use such a trump card, I really don't know if it's your misfortune or my fortune. However, regardless of whether you're lucky or not, you're going to die today. When the last word die left his mouth, a strange black flame immediately enveloped the entire golden stone platform. Immediately after, under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, the golden stone platform that was several hundred feet tall was actually completely engulfed by the black flame in the blink of an eye. In the end, it turned into nothingness. Puff! A mouthful of blood suddenly spat out from Wang Shuo's mouth. At this moment, his face had become extremely pale. Looking at the golden stone platform that was instantly swallowed up, there was a trace of fear in his eyes. This was his strongest move, and it actually couldn't withstand the strange black flame for a breath's time before it was completely burned up. Dang dang dang. Chapter 90. Terrifying black flame. The endless black flame shrouded Zhuowen's thin figure, but it didn't seem to affect him at all. He held the cauldron in his hand and slowly walked forward. Gulp. Wang Shuo swallowed his saliva quietly and looked at the looming figure shrouded in the black flame with fear in his eyes. The chill in his heart had reached its peak. Die! A clear and cold voice slowly spread. Immediately, the endless black flames that enveloped the figure immediately transformed into a black skull in the air. Its dark and serene eyes quietly stared at Wang Shuo. After which, it parted its mouth and emitted a strange and sinister smile. Suddenly, it flew towards Wang Shuo. Its speed was so fast that it seemed to have teleported. Damn it, you're just a little brat of the Void realm. No matter how powerful you are, you can't be my opponent. Suppressing the fear in his heart, Wang Shuo made a seal with his hands again. The surging original energy suddenly condensed into a dazzling light seal in his hands. Then, with a roar, he suddenly hit the skull with his palm. Boom! The golden stone platform appeared once again and smashed toward the skull with mountain-like power. Jia jia! The black flame skull let out a sinister laugh. 2 pillars of fire were released from its hollow eyes. The golden stone platform was immediately surrounded by the pillars of fire. Under Wang Shua's terrified gaze, the golden stone platform rapidly melted at a speed visible to the naked eye. Puff! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Wang Shua covered his chest and stared at the approaching black flame skull with fear. Suddenly, he shouted in fear, "Impossible, you're just a little brat of the Void realm. How can you have such powerful strength?" Ah! A miserable scream rang out, but it quickly came to an abrupt end. The endless black flames instantly swallowed him up. Even though Wang Shua had his life-bound armor, he was still instantly devoured by the strange black flames. In the end, Wang Shua's entire body was reduced to ashes in front of everyone's eyes. Gulp! Swallowing sounds rang out in the square. Everyone's eyes were focused on the figure shrouded in the black flame. They never thought that a powerful warrior of the Yang Void realm would turn into ashes in front of them. Because of Wang Shua's death, the square fell into a long silence. Numerous pairs of eyes stared blankly at the figure within the black flames. No words were spoken, no noise was made. Only the sound of continuous swallowing could be heard from time to time. The black flames slowly faded away, revealing Zhuowen's handsome face. However, Zhuowen's current situation was not good. His face was as pale as snow, and cold sweat dripped down his forehead like rain. The might of the Nirvana demon flame is actually so terrifying that even a corporeal young martial artist is unable to withstand it. Zhuowen muttered to himself with an astonished expression as he looked at Wang Shua, who had turned into ashes not far away. This Dragon Lord has already said that the strength of the Nirvana demon flame is something that even those at the corporeal yang stage are extremely afraid of. However, the reason why you were able to use the Nirvana demon flame to easily finish off Wang Shua was because that fellow had just advanced to the corporeal yang stage. He had yet to even form his armor. If he had formed his armor, even the Nirvana demon flame would have difficulty finishing him off. Xiao Hei's lazy voice suddenly rang out in Zhuowen's mind. Armor? Zhuowen asked somewhat uncertainly. Looks like you don't know much about the corporeal yang stage. Let me explain it to you like this. Every stage of a martial artist has a corresponding armor. The Yin illusory stage has a void armor that is agglomerated from dark and cold energy. The corresponding corporeal yang stage requires a corporeal armor that is agglomerated from yang yuan qi. It is also called yang armor. A corporeal armor is agglomerated from yang yuan qi. It has a natural immunity to fire. Moreover, its defensive strength is far higher than a void armor. Therefore, if that fellow earlier had a corporeal armor protecting his body, even the Nirvana demon flame would not have been able to kill him. At the very most, it would have injured him. Zhuowen felt relieved in his heart when he heard this. Although the Nirvana demon flame was powerful, it was not powerful enough to kill a corporeal yang stage martial artist. This time around, he was lucky enough to meet a corporeal yang stage martial artist who had yet to form his armor. If an even stronger corporeal yang stage martial artist were to come over, it would be really difficult for him to deal with him. However, after releasing most of the Nirvana demon flame this time around, there is not much demon flame remaining in the cauldron. Zhuowen said somewhat helplessly as he sized up the weak flame in the fire vent at the bottom of the circular cauldron. After all, the Nirvana demon flame was something that Zhuowen had unintentionally collected. It would be reduced each time it was used. It could not be regenerated like qi. The silence in the open ground only continued for a moment before a crazy uproar immediately surged through the entire open ground. He actually killed Wang Shua, who was at the corporeal yang stage. This is too unbelievable. This is too crazy. Since when was a Yin Void stage martial artist able to kill a corporeal yang stage martial artist? I must be dreaming. The open ground immediately became crazy and chaotic. Disbelieving words and gazes of disbelief continued to spread out amidst the uproar. On the platform, Gu Lai's expression had become extremely gloomy. Although he maintained a calm expression on the surface, his heart was in an uproar. He also did not expect that Zhuowen was actually able to kill Wang Shuo. This was especially the case for the strange black flame that Zhuowen had released at the end. It was something that he was somewhat familiar with. However, he was unable to recall just what it was. Gu Lai's eyes gradually spread a thread of regret as he stared at the skinny figure. Originally, he only wanted to help his son, Gu Shang, vent his anger. However, he did not expect that Zhuowen had actually exceeded his expectations time and time again. In the end, even he had no choice but to admit that Zhuowen was definitely a genius that appeared once in 100 years. Even though there might be a gap when compared to that monster from the city lord's mansion, the gap was not too big. The corner of Gu Lai's mouth involuntarily twitched a little when he had offended such a genius because of his son's willfulness. After all, this was not worth it no matter how one looked at it. Father, Gu Shang behind him was somewhat unwilling to accept this. He softly called out to Gu Lai, wanting Gu Lai to attack and completely destroy Zhuowen. However, he was interrupted by Gu Lai before he could say anything. Shut up. You haven't caused enough trouble. Gu Lai glared at Gu Shang with his scarlet eyes, causing the latter to unconsciously take a few steps back. Soon after, he also noticed Master Tsangmu, who was accumulating power and waiting to attack not far from the platform. He knew that if he made any strange movements, Tsangmu would definitely be the first to stop him. Zhuowen quietly stood on the square. His dazzling figure made the younger generation of the other clans on the platform feel somewhat ashamed of their inferiority. Zhuowen was younger than them by a few years. Furthermore, he relied on his Yin Void Realm cultivation to kill a young corporeal realm warrior. Among those of the same age, who else could achieve such a glorious achievement? Even the prideful Chen Ting could only sigh inwardly, feeling ashamed of her own inferiority. Wang Meng, on the other hand, seemed to have lost his soul as he finally realized that the youth still had such a terrifying trump card. If Zhuowen had used that terrifying black flame during the battle with them. Thinking of this, Wang Meng could not help but tremble. He knew that his end would definitely be more miserable than Wang Shuo's. Zhuowen! You bastard, I'm going to kill you! A beast-like roar suddenly came from the other side of the square. Wang Yuanqing, who was entangled with Zhuo Xiangding, was currently glaring at Zhuowen with his scarlet eyes. He had just seen Wang Shuo turn into ashes with his own eyes. It should be known that Wang Shuo had reached the Yang corporeal realm in his 30s. He was considered a genius in the Wang clan. If he was allowed to slowly develop, it would not be a problem for him to reach the half-step Zhao King realm. Wang Yuanqing also did not expect that Wang Shuo, who had just reached the Yang corporeal realm, would die like this. An unprecedented feeling of grief and indignation exploded in Wang Yuanqing's chest. Humph! Wang Yuanqing, you reap what you sow. If you want to kill Zhuowen, then you have to get through me first. Zhuo Xiangding suddenly flashed and immediately blocked the somewhat crazy Wang Yuanqing. Today, I must kill that bastard Zhuowen. Even if I have to pay a certain price, I will kill him. Wang Yuanqing suddenly struck Zhuo Xiangding with his palm and retreated a dozen steps. His eyes were bloodshot. Soon after, Wang Yuanqing formed a strange seal with his hands and a blood-red mark appeared on his forehead. Boom! A bloody mist erupted from Wang Yuanqing's body and immediately drilled into his forehead. The blood-red mark on his forehead also became denser. Blood-light sacrifice. Wang Yuanqing suddenly slapped his chest and spat out a mouthful of essence blood. The essence blood drilled into his forehead as soon as it came out. Hiss! At this moment, the blood-red mark on Wang Yuanqing's forehead suddenly emitted a dazzling blood-red light that enveloped his entire body. Wang Yuanqing's aura suddenly soared at an explosive speed. Soon, his aura broke through the half-step Zhao King realm and entered the Zhao King realm. Zhuo Xiangding's pupils shrank and he could not help but cry out, blood-light sacrifice? Had Wang Yuanqing gone mad? He actually used such a terrifying secret technique. The blood-light sacrifice was a very cruel secret technique. This sacrifice used a part of one's lifespan as the price to forcibly increase one's cultivation for a short period of time. Wang Yuanqing would never use this secret technique unless it was a matter of life and death. Since he had used it now, it could be seen that Wang Yuanqing was determined to kill Zhuo Wen. We can't let him succeed in the sacrifice. Otherwise, Zhuo Wen will really be in danger. Zhuo Xiangding's gaze became even more gloomy. The yuan power in his body suddenly condensed in his hand and he threw out a punch. 100-meter-long yuan power python condensed and flew towards Wang Yuanqing, who was shrouded in blood-red light. Boom! When the two collided, a powerful shockwave seemed to cause the sky to fall and the earth to crack. The entire square shook constantly and endless smoke and dust filled the square. Zhuo Xiangding, you old bastard! Do you think such a weak attack will work on me? A cold voice suddenly rang out. Soon after, a blood-red light flashed through the billowing smoke and dust. Puff! Zhuo Xiangding only felt an irresistible force attacking him. Soon after, he spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. The figure flying backward immediately attracted the attention of many people. When they saw Zhuo Xiangding's face clearly, everyone gasped. They didn't expect that Zhuo Xiangding, who was half a step away from the Zhao King realm, would be injured in one move. Zhao King realm. Looking at the figure slowly walking out of the smoke and dust, everyone knew that Wang Yuanqing's cultivation had probably reached the Zhao King realm under the effect of the secret technique just now. You killed our Wang family's young corporeal realm warrior and forced me to use the secret technique blood-light sacrifice. Zhuo Wen, today, only your life and the entire Zhuo family can make up for our Wang family's loss. As he spoke, Wang Yuanqing turned into a blood-red line that was hard to see with the naked eye and shot towards Zhuo Wen without any warning. His powerful aura immediately locked onto the figure not far away. At this moment, Zhuo Wen stood in place and couldn't move at all. His body had been locked onto by Wang Yuanqing's aura. This aura was like a huge mountain pressing down on him. This old dog of the Wang family has gone too far. Chapter 91. Chapter 91. The most powerful man in Rattan Armor City. The scarlet light was exceptionally dazzling in the square. Everyone only saw the bloody light flash in the square, and they saw that Wang Yuanqing had appeared in front of Zhuo Wen at some point in time. His palm, covered in the color of blood, chopped towards Zhuo Wen's neck without any hesitation. Zhuo Wen's pupils shrank and a strong sense of danger spread in his heart. He could feel the great power condensed in Wang Yuanqing's palm. This power was enough to kill him. Xiao He, I'm about to die. Why aren't you helping me? Zhuo Wen roared in his heart. An intense feeling of unease was spreading in his mind. For some reason, this old man's strength has increased to the level of a Zhao King realm cultivator. Looks like we'll have to go all out this time. A solemn voice suddenly sounded in Zhuo Wen's mind. He knew that Xiao He was about to make a move. Just as Xiao He was about to transfer her dragon energy to Zhuo Wen, a light wall that was several feet tall suddenly appeared in front of Zhuo Wen. Boom! Coincidentally, Wang Yuanqing's palm blade was blocked by the wall of light. With a loud bang, the wall of light in front of Zhuo Wen did not move at all. Wang Yuanqing, on the other hand, spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated a dozen steps. This is... Zhuo Wen's pupils constricted as he stared at the light wall in front of him with a puzzled expression. Phew! It seemed like someone had made a move. In that case, there was no need for this dragon lord to get involved. Kid, the person who saved you is very strong. Don't call out to me casually later. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble if you're discovered. Xiao He's voice carried a hint of relaxation and seriousness. Zhuo Wen was startled. He immediately raised his head and looked towards the southern sky. He saw two figures slowly landing on the platform of the city lord's mansion. One of the two figures was a middle-aged man in a purple robe with a gentle smile on his face. The other was a handsome young man in a white robe with his hands behind his back and an arrogant look on his face. Zhuo Wen narrowed his eyes. He could feel the faint pressure from the purple-clothed man. Although it was only a trace of his aura, it still made people gasp for breath. It was obvious that the purple-clothed man's strength was above the Zhao King realm, and perhaps even above Gu Lai. What made Zhuowen even more surprised was that he could not see through the aura of the white-clothed youth standing beside the purple-clothed man. There were only two possibilities for such a situation. One was that he was an ordinary person without any cultivation, and the other was that his cultivation far surpassed Zhuowen's, causing Zhuowen to be unable to see through him. Since he could stand beside the powerful purple-clothed man, it was naturally impossible for him to be an ordinary person without any cultivation. In other words, the white-clothed youth's cultivation far surpassed Zhuowen's. Thinking to there, Zhuowen's heart violently trembled. The white-clothed youth seemed to be around the same age as Wang Meng, but his cultivation was so high that even Zhuowen could not see through him. This made Zhuowen feel that it was unbelievable. He never thought that there would be such a powerful young person in Rattan Armor City. The white-clothed young man on the platform seemed to have noticed Zhuowen's gaze. He tilted his head slightly and immediately met Zhuowen's gaze. A playful smile appeared on the corner of the white-clothed young man's mouth as he naturally turned his head. At this moment, Gu Lai and Sangmu, who had been sitting on the platform, hurriedly stood up. They respectfully clasped their hands at the purple-clothed man and whispered something. Wang Yuanqing, who had been blocked by the wall of light that had appeared out of nowhere, was extremely furious. Just when he was about to say something, he immediately became stunned when he saw the purple-clothed man on the platform. Immediately, he seemed to have thought of something and his face immediately became rather ugly. Zhuowen saw how Wang Yuanqing, Gu Lai, and Sangmu treated the purple-clothed man with respect. This made Zhuowen slightly more curious about the purple-clothed man's identity. "Zhuowen, are you all right?" A rather heavy voice rang out from beside Zhuowen. Zhua Xiangding, Zhua Baitian, and Zhua Dingtian had all arrived beside Zhuowen. The one who spoke was Zhua Xiangding. Zhuowen shook his head slightly, indicating that he was fine. Their battle had all stopped because of the purple-clothed man's sudden arrival. "Grandfather, do you know who that purple-clothed man is?" Zhuowen pointed at the purple-clothed man and asked. "If I'm not wrong, that person should be the city lord." Only the elusive city lord, Gu Tian, can gain the respect of Gu Lai and Grandmaster Sangmu, Zhua Xiangding said in a deep voice. However, there was also a trace of respect in his eyes. Zhuowen nodded slightly. No wonder he could casually block Wang Yuanqing's full-powered attack. He was the #1 expert of Rattan Armor City, Gu Tian. The purple-clothed man briefly conversed with Gu Lai and Grandmaster Sangmu on the platform. A trace of dissatisfaction appeared on Gu Lai's face, while Grandmaster Sangmu was full of smiles. Then, the purple-clothed man turned around, a gentle smile hanging on his face as he looked down at the entire square. When his gaze swept past Zhuowen, it paused for a moment, but then he naturally shifted his gaze away. "Everyone probably hasn't seen me before, but I think you've all heard of the name, Gu Tian." The purple-clothed man's voice was extremely gentle, making people feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. Although his voice was a little soft, everyone in the plaza could hear the content of his voice. When the purple-clothed man spoke, it immediately caused an uproar in the plaza. Everyone in Rattan Armor City naturally knew the name, Gu Tian. This was because not only did this name represent the city lord of Rattan Armor City, but it also represented the identity of the #1 expert in Rattan Armor City. However, although everyone in Rattan Armor City had heard of the name, they had rarely seen Gu Tian's true appearance. This was also the reason why the purple-clothed man's appearance confused everyone. "I never thought it would be the city lord. This is the first time I've seen the city lord's true appearance in so many years." That's right. The city lord has always been elusive. In the past, he had never appeared in the market battles. Who would have thought that this year's market battle would make an exception? This is truly unbelievable. At this moment, the plaza suddenly became lively. Numerous blazing gazes gathered on the purple-clothed figure on the platform as people discussed incessantly. When the plaza quieted down a little, Gu Tian spoke again. "Originally, I didn't like to attend this kind of event. However, this time, someone broke the rules of the market battle. Therefore, I had no choice but to come out and host it. As he spoke, Gu Tian's gaze slowly shot towards Wang Yuanqing, whose body was covered in a bloody glow. His face still carried a gentle smile, but his gaze was cold and sinister. Wang family head, am I right? There was a trace of unquestionable coldness in his light voice. Wang Yuanqing wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead and hurriedly smiled, the city lord is right. Yuanqing knows his mistake. Wang Yuanqing didn't dare to slight the man in front of him who had a gentle smile. Although Gu Tian's smile was gentle, if anyone who knew about Gu Tian's past knew that someone who disobeyed him wouldn't have a good ending. The smile on Gu Tian's face became even gentler. He said gently, Wang family head, it's good that you know your mistake. After all, we are all part of Rotan Armor City. It's not worthwhile to kill each other over a small market battle. Also, I heard that someone challenged the resurrection battle in this market battle and even succeeded. I wonder which young talent it is. Gu Tian naturally knew that the person who challenged the resurrection battle was Zhuowen, but he was just putting on an act. In the square, Zhuo Xiangding suddenly puffed out his chest and patted Zhuowen's shoulder. His old face revealed a proud expression as he said confidently, the city lord is too kind. The person who challenged the resurrection battle is this kid. His name is Zhuowen. Gu Tian's gaze naturally converged on Zhuowen's body. He smiled and said, as expected, your Zhuo family is very fortunate to have produced such a genius. Gu Tian's words naturally made Zhuo Xiangding smile from ear to ear. He scratched his head with his right hand. On the surface, he looked simple and honest as he hurriedly said that he didn't dare, but on the inside, he was very happy. The result of the market battle is very clear. This dispute ends here. I now announce that the final winner is the Zhuo family. Moreover, because of the Wang family's unreasonable provocation, the Wang family has to pay an additional 10 market battle rights in addition to the wager. Gu Tian still had a gentle smile on his face as he turned his gaze to Wang Yuanqing. Wang family head, your Wang family shouldn't have any objections to my judgment, right? Creak. Wang Yuanqing clenched his fist until it made a crisp sound. Blue veins popped out on the back of his hand. He slightly lowered his head and replied in a restrained voice, our Wang family has no objections. Wang Yuanqing was very clear about Gu Tian's methods, so he didn't dare to disobey. He also understood that Gu Tian's appearance was very likely because their Wang family had gone too far and was here to suppress them. Alright, I have already done what I need to do. I will leave first. I have already handed over the remaining matters to Grandmaster Tsangmu to take over. The purple-clothed man's body flashed and disappeared from the platform as he spoke. The white-clothed young man stared deeply at Zhuowen. His lips squirmed a little before he similarly left the square. Zhuowen, the black flame that you used earlier was the Nirvana demon flame, right? Although you relied on an external force to kill the corporeal Yang stage expert, your talent is indeed quite good. I really look forward to meeting you again. Remember my name. I am Gu Xin. Gu Xin. Zhuowen's eyes revealed an expression of deep thought as he stared deeply at the white-clothed young man who left. He did not expect that this mysterious white-clothed young man was actually able to recognize the Nirvana demon flame that he had unleashed earlier. It was likely that this young man was not simple. After the purple-clothed man left, the following matters proceeded very smoothly. After Grandmaster Tsangmu took over, the Wang family and the Qin family obediently handed over their gambling chips. Among them, the Qin family had 5 markets while the Wang family had a total of 20 markets including the compensation. They held the title deeds for 25 markets. Zhuo Xiangding was grinning from ear to ear. The members of the Zhuo family also revealed gratified smiles. Now that they had obtained 25 markets in one go, in addition to the original 5 markets, the Zhuo family had a total of 30 markets under their name. This number was almost the same as the Wang family. As for the Wang clan, after it ended, they left the square without any hesitation. They couldn't stay a moment longer. Not only did the Wang clan compensate 10 more markets, they also lost a corporeal Yang realm warrior. It could be said that they had suffered a double loss. After this battle for the markets, the Wang family's reputation could be considered to have fallen to the bottom. It was likely that they would not dare to do anything high-profile for a long time. Chapter 92. The banquet night gradually descended. It appeared as though a black dragon had covered the sky, covering the light of day. The land had descended into darkness. The territory of the Zhou family was brightly lit within the quiet darkness. It was extraordinarily lively. Under the reflection of the lights, human figures crossed each other. It was noisy, just like a bustling city. A day had passed since the end of the battle for the marketplace. Due to him obtaining 25 marketplaces in one go, Zhou Xiangding was greatly comforted by the generous reward. Hence, in order to celebrate this victory, Zhou Xiangding decided to hold a banquet tonight. He had invited quite a number of leaders from various factions in Rattan Armor City to attend the banquet. This was also the reason why tonight was so lively. At this moment, the spacious martial arts practice field had already become the venue for the banquet. Numerous lacquered red wooden tables were neatly arranged in the field. Numerous delicious dishes and fine wines had already been prepared on the tables. Moreover, most of the guests had basically already taken their seats. Waves of noisy conversations sounded from time to time, causing the atmosphere of tonight to appear somewhat warm. However, most of the guests in the arena gathered their gazes on a platform at the head of the arena. There was also a table of people on the platform. From the respectful expressions in the eyes of these guests, one could tell that the status of the people at this table was not ordinary. Zhou Xiangding, Zhou Baitian, and other important members of the Zhou family were also present at this table. Other than the members of the Zhou family, the leaders of the stronger factions in Rattan Armor City were also present. Among them was the respected Grandmaster Tsang Mu and the daughter of the city governor, Gu Yu. The conversations on the table also rose and fell. Quite a number of leaders from various factions were saying some respectful words. From time to time, they would exchange toasts with Zhou Xiangding and the rest. The atmosphere at the table was joyous and harmonious. Zhu Owen, on the other hand, was quietly seated at a remote spot on the table. He faintly smiled as he looked at everyone. From time to time, he would pick up some food and send it into his mouth. However, his mind was secretly conversing with Xiao He in his sea of consciousness from time to time. Xiao He, ever since I released most of the Nirvana demon flame yesterday, there seems to be little demon flame left in the jade cauldron. Is there any way to recover it? The might of the Nirvana demon flame caused Zhuowen to covet it. If it was released, no one at the Yin Void stage would be able to block it. Even an initial corporeal Yang stage expert could be instantly killed. Such a might was too useful to the current Zhuowen. Actually, the Nirvana demon flame is indestructible. Logically speaking, the Nirvana demon flame to recover. However, the recovery process is quite long. Blackie's lazy voice was slowly transmitted into Zhuowen's mind. However, what it said caused Zhuowen to feel a little discouraged. 1 to 2 years was really too long. After all, the strength of the Nirvana demon flame was at most comparable to the initial level of the Yang stage. After 1 to 2 years, Zhuowen might have already advanced to the Yang stage and the Nirvana demon flame would not have much of an effect on him. Don't tell me that there is no other method to quickly recover the might of the Nirvana demon flame? Zhuowen was a little unwilling. The Nirvana demon flame was a great weapon to him. He did not want to give it up so easily. There is. However, this method is a little painful. Do you really intend to try it? Xiao Hei's voice contained a trace of hesitation. It was as though she had something that was difficult to hide. He. Since there is a method to quickly recover the Nirvana demon flame, a little pain is nothing. You are the one who said this. Don't regret it when the time comes. However, I will tell you about this method after the banquet is over. It is not easy to do it with so many people around. I will leave first. Call me after the banquet is over. Xiao Hei's voice contained a trace of gloating. After which, it gradually disappeared. During the banquet, Guyu had bright eyes, white teeth, delicate skin, and a smile on her peach blossom cheeks. An elegant and refined aura slowly flowed out from her body. This kind of aura immediately drew the gazes of many people in the banquet. It was even to the extent that the eyes of some people would occasionally reveal an infatuated expression. Guyu's beauty lay in her refined aura. This was completely different from Han Shue's seductive beauty. This aura caused others to feel as though they were smelling a faint lilac flower. However, Han Shue's beauty lay in her hot figure. Her entire body emitted a seductive aura that tugged at the heartstrings of others. There was always a kind of desire that caused one's heart to burn with desire to completely conquer her. Guyu was extremely clear about her own aura. Since she was young, she had always been surrounded by stars. No matter where she went, she would be able to enjoy countless infatuated gazes. However, her pretty face was stunned when her beautiful eyes moved to look at the young man opposite her. The gaze of the young man opposite her did not have the infatuation and admiration that she expected. It was even to the extent that Guyu was able to sense that the young man's eyes were slightly empty. Obviously, the young man was in a daze. Her jet-black brows furrowed. This was the first time she had encountered a man of the opposite sex who was sitting in front of a great beauty like her. Yet, his expression did not change at all. He was even in a daze. In addition, Zhuowen's somewhat dazzling performance in yesterday's market battle had caused Guyu to begin to develop a strong interest in this young man who was even younger than her. Young Master Zhuowen's performance yesterday was extremely dazzling. However, Guyu is very curious. What exactly was that black flame that young master used yesterday? Even a corporeal yang stage practitioner was unable to withstand it. A clear voice suddenly broke the quiet atmosphere of the banquet. When Guyu's words came out, everyone's gazes were drawn to the somewhat absent-minded young man in the corner of the banquet. Even Zhuo Xiangding and the other clan members were curiously looking at this young man who had brought their Zhuo family into the champion seat of the market battle. Although they were clearly aware that Zhuowen's talent was extremely great and being able to defeat Wang Meng had already caused them to be a little surprised, killing a corporeal yang stage practitioner was somewhat monstrous. Zhuowen also recovered because of this question. He looked deeply at the smiling Guyu opposite him before turning his head to look at Grandmaster Tsangmu a short distance away and said, "I think that Grandmaster Tsangmu should be more aware of that thing. It might be more appropriate for him to explain it." Grandmaster Tsangmu did not expect that Zhuowen would push this question to him. When he saw that everyone's gazes were gathered on him, he also knew that he could not escape this task of explaining. If my guess is correct, the black flame that Zhuowen released yesterday should be the Nirvana demon flame. Hiss! The moment these words left Grandmaster Tsangmu's mouth, it immediately caused everyone in the seats to suck in a deep breath. Even Zhuo Xiangding's group revealed a shocked expression. Zhuowen saw the great reaction of everyone. He knew that his use of the Nirvana demon flame to kill a corporeal yang stage practitioner yesterday was really too unbelievable. This matter would definitely be questioned by them. It was just that he did not expect that the question would come so quickly. However, it was fortunate that Zhuowen had already thought of the corresponding words in his heart. He would naturally have an explanation if they asked. The only thing that I find strange is that this Nirvana demon flame should only appear when an extremely vicious practitioner advances to the Nirvana stage. Zhuowen, how did you obtain such an ominous thing? Grandmaster Tsangmu's expression turned solemn when he spoke until this point. His eyes stared directly at Zhuowen. Zhuowen scratched his head and said somewhat shyly, "Actually, this Nirvana demon flame is something that I accidentally obtained. A couple of months ago, I met a man who was preparing to cross the Nirvana stage in a field on the outskirts of the city. The Nirvana demon flame came out from within that man's body. I saw that the demon flame directly swallowed that man. At that time, I also panicked. After that, the demon flame actually possessed some intelligence and discovered me. It wanted to come over and swallow me. Helpless, I could only go all out. However, I did not expect that my Jade Cauldron Armor Soul seemed to be able to restrain the demon flame. In the end, the demon flame was absorbed by my jade cauldron. Yesterday, I was also forced into a desperate situation by Wang Shuo. Therefore, I had no choice but to release the demon flame within the jade cauldron armor soul. Everyone immediately revealed an expression of understanding after Zhuowen's explanation. Their doubts from earlier were also relieved. From Zhuowen's words, they knew that the Nirvana demon flame was actually obtained from someone else. Everyone also knew about the jade cauldron armor soul that Zhuowen had mentioned. When Zhuowen had released the black flame yesterday, he had indeed used the jade cauldron before releasing the black flame. It is really unexpected that Zhuowen's armor soul is actually able to restrain a demonic creature like the Nirvana demon flame. This is really a little mysterious. However, you should also be careful in the future. It is likely that the martial artist that you met that day was an extremely vicious person. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to summon such an evil demon flame. Grandmaster Tsangmu warned Zhuowen in a serious manner. Immediately, his face revealed a doting smile. Zhuo Xiangding's old face immediately revealed a proud smile when the armor soul was mentioned. He said, Zhuowen's jade cauldron armor soul is not simple. During the test at the jaded soul tablet back then, the quality of the jade cauldron armor soul was as high as the 8th grade. It is not impossible for it to be able to subdue the Nirvana demon flame. The banquet immediately descended into a dead silence when these words of Zhuo Xiangding were uttered. Immediately, an uproar of praise sounded. Everyone's eyes stared intently at the young man who had been wearing a smile on his face. They did not expect that the quality of this young man's armor soul had actually reached the 8th grade. This talent was already comparable to the members of a large clan. The smile on Gu Yu's pretty face had also stiffened at this moment. The eyes that she used to look at the young man were also filled with shock. Being the daughter of the city governor, she knew a lot more than others. She clearly knew just how rare a person who possessed an 8th grade armor soul was. If such a person were to grow up, he would definitely be an exceptional expert. Grandmaster Tsangmu was also slightly startled when he heard these words. Immediately, the gaze that he used to look at Zhuowen had also become increasingly gentle. After all, being able to accept such an extremely talented disciple was a kind of great fortune to him. The proud expression on Zhuo Xiangding's old face became even denser when he saw the somewhat dull and shocked expression on everyone's faces. His entire face was incomparably flushed red. He picked up his wine cup and drank a mouthful before speaking some words that shocked everyone present. Zhuowen does not only have one type of armor soul. He has a triple armor soul. The Jade Cauldron armor soul is only the highest quality armor soul in his body. Bang! Chapter 93. Chapter 93. Quota of Vitality Tower. In the silence, all the gazes in the banquet were focused on the young man. Traces of shock and astonishment continuously spread throughout the banquet. With so many gazes gathered on him, even Zhuowen, who was thick-skinned, found it somewhat difficult to endure. In particular, there were a few rather heated gazes among these gazes, which caused him to feel even more embarrassed in his heart. The gathering of gazes only lasted for a moment before the banquet returned to normal. However, the leaders of the other forces present at the banquet treated Zhuo Xiangding and the others even more politely. No wonder young Master Zhuowen has such strength. Even Wang Meng from the Wang clan is no match for him. It turns out that he has the talent of triple armor soul. Looks like there's hope for the Zhuo family to rise. With young Master Zhuowen's talent, I'm sure the Zhuo family's influence won't just be limited to Rattan Armor City. We still need Brother Zhuo's help in the future. The rise of the Zhuo family is unstoppable. At this moment, the banquet became even more lively. Looking at the increasingly attentive crowd, Zhuowen sneered in his heart. He knew that these factions had always been opportunistic and would side with whoever was stronger. However, the Zhuo family's power and influence in Rattan Armor City would become even greater with the support of these big and small forces. This was also what the higher-ups of the Zhuo family thought. Zhuo Xiangding had personally discussed this with Zhuowen before, so Zhuowen naturally understood. After the battle at the market square, Zhuowen's reputation and status had greatly improved. Now, Zhuowen, who was still a teenager, had the qualifications to participate in the family's high-level decisions. Many elders would even follow Zhuowen's opinion before discussing important family matters. Such treatment was no less than that of the patriarch of the family. Zhuo Xiangding was not displeased by this phenomenon. Instead, he was gratified. After all, he had long planned to pass the position of patriarch to Zhuowen. This treatment was just to let him adapt to the role of patriarch. At the banquet, Guyu, who had asked a question at the beginning, was silent at this moment. Her beautiful eyes were filled with extraordinary splendor as she stared at the young man opposite her who was talking cheerfully and wittily. A trace of an unknown emotion quietly rose in her heart. Time passed very quickly, and the banquet ended very quickly. All the big and small forces on the martial arts practice field said their goodbyes one after another, and the originally bustling martial arts practice field suddenly became somewhat deserted. Zhuowen, the head of the Zhuo family, it's getting late. This old man has to go. Goodbye. Miss Guyu, will you be leaving with this old man? Grandmaster Karaki cupped his hands towards Zhuo Xiangding, then winked at Zhuowen and slowly said. Guyu is more than happy to be able to travel with Grandmaster Karaki. However, I have a few words to pass on to young Master Zhuowen. This is what Lord Father wanted me to pass on. Guyu politely bowed to Karaki and said softly. Oh? Since that old man Guyu Tian has something to say, could it be that he has taken a fancy to my disciple and wants to steal my disciple from me? Grandmaster Karaki's tone was somewhat vigilant when he heard this. Guyu was stunned for a moment, then immediately smiled and said, Lord Father is not an arcana master. How could he steal your disciple? Even with the many years of friendship between Lord Father and you, he would not steal your disciple. Hearing this, Karaki's old face reddened. He also knew that he had spoken carelessly, so he turned his head and stopped talking. Zhuo Xiangding and the others also looked at Guyu curiously. They were curious as to what the city lord of Rattan Armor City, known as the strongest person in the city, Guyu Tian, would say. Zhuowen's curiosity was also piqued. He couldn't help but think of the majestic purple-clothed man from yesterday. To be able to easily injure Wang Yuanxing, who had used a secret technique to increase his strength, Guyu Tian's strength was definitely not simple. Lord Father said that he is very satisfied with your strength and talent, so he intends to give you a spot in the Origin Chi Tower. As for the specifics, he hopes that you can come to the City Lord's mansion tomorrow morning to discuss the details with my father. When Guyu said this, Zhuo Xiangding and the others' faces suddenly revealed expressions of shock, then ecstasy. For a moment, the breathing of the people present became heavy. Even Master Karaki's face showed a moment of stagnation. Then, as if he had thought of something, his face revealed a trace of contemplation. On the other hand, Zhuowen was a bit confused. He knew nothing about the Origin Chi Tower. Looking at the excited expressions of the people around him, he knew that the Origin Chi Tower should be something extraordinary. Is the City Lord's mansion really willing to give out a spot in the Origin Chi Tower? Zhuo Xiangding felt that his mouth was a bit dry, so he carefully asked again. Lord Father has always been a man of his word. He is indeed prepared to give out a spot. As for the specifics, that will depend on Lord Zhuowen to personally go to the City Lord's mansion tomorrow to find out. Well, since Lord Father's words have been conveyed, then my mission has been accomplished. I will take my leave now. Having said this, Guyu was about to turn and leave, but Zhuowen blocked her and said with a smile, Miss Guyu, I still have one more thing to ask. I hope you can answer me. Lord Father, as long as Guyu knows, I will naturally tell you. Guyu smiled reservedly. Is there a young man named Gu Xian in the City Lord's mansion? I wonder if Miss Guyu can tell me about this person. Guyu's expression froze, and then she said with some surprise, Lord Father, do you know my brother? Brother? He is your brother. Zhuowen didn't expect that Gu Xian was Guyu's brother, so he was the son of the City Lord. No wonder he couldn't see through his cultivation. Boy, you don't have to look like that. Gu Xian is indeed Guyu's brother, and his talent is even more monstrous than yours. He is only 19 years old, but his cultivation is already half a step into the corporeal yang stage. But in terms of real strength, he is much stronger than ordinary corporeal yang stage experts. Gu Xian could kill Wang Shua, who was killed by you yesterday, in 10 rounds. He is much stronger than you. Well, you will know when you go to the city lord's mansion tomorrow. It's not too late now, so we should go now. And you, boy, don't just focus on martial arts. You can't slack off on your mental strength. Once you break through to the first level, I will be able to teach you how to make crystals. At that time, you will be an official arcana master, and your status will be much higher. Master Kuraki casually said a few words, and then left the Zhuo family with Gu Yu, leaving Zhuowen standing in the same place, deep in thought. I didn't expect that the real masters were hidden in the city lord's mansion. Wang Meng must have been nothing in Gu Xian's eyes before, so he could be called the #1 master of Rattan Armor City. If it weren't for my dazzling performance in the market battle, City Lord Gu Yu Tian wouldn't have noticed me. Speaking of this, Zhuowen laughed at himself, but his heart became more excited. He knew that he still had a long way to go. He would become stronger and stronger until he became as powerful as the previous patriarchs of Ryuka, and lead his family to rise to become the strongest family in the eastern land. Zhuo Xiangding also noticed Zhuowen's abnormality, so he patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, "Zhuowen, you don't have to belittle yourself. You have reached the Yin Void realm at the age of 15. In a few years, your strength may not be worse than Gu Xian's. Don't worry. I won't be depressed because of this, but I am just a little emotional. And Grandpa, do you know what the Vitality Tower is?" Zhuowen smiled and asked curiously. He was really curious about the Vitality Tower. Since it could make Master Karaki's face change, it was obviously not an ordinary tower. Actually, I don't know much about the Origin Chi Tower, but I've heard that the Origin Chi Tower is a very mystical place. The Origin Chi inside is thousands of times that of the outside world. Cultivating inside for a day is equivalent to cultivating outside for a month. Therefore, martial artists who enter the Origin Chi Tower will be able to break through very quickly. Speaking of the Vitality Tower, Zhuo Xiangding's face showed a trace of dignity and yearning. The vitality is thousands of times more than outside. How can there be such a place? Zhuowen's face suddenly froze, and then his eyes revealed a look of excitement. A place that could quickly improve one's cultivation was the dream of all warriors. However, Zhuowen could see from Gu Yu's face that this place was very rare. In the past, the city lord would never give such a place, but now he has made an exception. Obviously, he has taken a fancy to your potential. And I also heard that countless geniuses in Muqing County enter the Vitality Tower to compete. It seems that the final winner will be personally conferred the title of Marquis by Emperor Qing. Emperor Qing personally conferred the title of Marquis? Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He didn't expect that the winner of the Vitality Tower competition would be conferred the title of Marquis, and by Emperor Qing himself. Emperor Qing was the supreme ruler of the Qing Xian Empire. He was the strongest expert in the entire empire. It was said that he had already reached the peak of the Emperor realm. Zhuowen also didn't expect that the Vitality Tower competition would attract the likes of Emperor Qing, who was considered a giant in the entire eastern lands. It seemed that the Vitality Tower competition wasn't simple. Alright, you don't have to think too much about it. After all, those who can stand out in the Vitality Tower competition are all top geniuses in the entire Qing Xian Empire. You haven't cultivated for long, so there's no need to worry about these things. Alright, it's getting late, so I'll be leaving first. Zhuo Xiangding patted Zhuowen's shoulder, then got up and left the arena. Looking at Zhuo Xiangding's departing figure, Zhuowen's mouth revealed a trace of excitement. He muttered to himself, Vitality Tower, Emperor Qing, and news of father. One day, I'll go out and explore. Rattan Armor City is just my starting point. In a dark pavilion in the city lord's mansion, Gu Yu stood quietly in her room. Not far away, a man in purple stood with his hands behind his back. He gazed at Gu Yu with gentle eyes and said, "What's Zhuowen's answer?" The answer is naturally yes. After all, the Vitality Tower is a place that all martial artists dream of entering. Zhuowen can't refuse. And I heard from the head of the Zhuo family, Zhuo Xiangding, that Zhuowen actually has a triple armor soul. The potential in his body is limitless. Chapter 94. Flame controlling technique. Late at night, everything was quiet. Occasionally, the rustling sound of a gentle breeze would be emitted from the quiet night. At this moment, the Zhuo family had become completely deserted. The brightly lit scene was no longer there. Only the candlelight of the night watchman drifted in the night. Inside the hidden dragon pavilion, there was a brightly lit attic. In the room, a young man with a delicate face was silently sitting on a kong. His slightly closed eyes slowly opened. Xiao He, you should tell me about the method to recover the Nirvana demon flame, right? The young man tilted his head slightly and looked directly at Xiao He on the wooden table. His clear voice also sounded with a thread of excitement surfacing within it. What an impatient person. Actually, it is not difficult to recover the Nirvana demon flame. Although the demon flame is a demonic creature, it can also be considered a kind of special flame. Moreover, the Nirvana demon flame is a kind of greedy demon flame that swallows. If you want it to recover, you can only let it continue to eat. Xiao He played with its tail that looked like a dragon's tail. It curled up comfortably on the table as a lazy voice was emitted from its mouth. Eat? Eat what? You little fellow are stupid. The Nirvana demon flame swallows everything. However, the only thing that can allow it to continue to grow is flames. The Nirvana demon flame can only recover by swallowing other flames. You should know that there are many mysterious energies existing in this world. The Nirvana demon flame is one of them. Xiao He gave the young man an expression that said, "You are really stupid." Immediately, it continued speaking. 10,000 years ago, the powerful alchemists loved these mysterious energies the most. Among them, the flame-type energy could help the alchemists increase the chances of forming a pill. The other types of energy could also be used in medicine to refine medicinal pills. And these pharmacists, who had nothing better to do, gave these strange energies a ranking. From high to low, they were divided into mortal, human, earth, heaven, emperor, Sheng and god. What is interesting is that this ranking system is exactly the same as your current armor technique ranking. Clearly, some things from 10,000 years ago have been passed down until now. Perhaps your current era's ranking of the mysterious energies should also be using these 8 grade ranks to differentiate them. So these mysterious energies actually have ranks. What level does the Nirvana demon flame belong to? Zhuowen's interest was also piqued as he asked with some anticipation. Glancing at the youth, the black puppy lazily turned around and lightly said, "It's barely at the mortal level. After all, its power is only comparable to the corporeal yang realm." This kind of low-level energy was everywhere tens of thousands of years ago, but now it's become a rare thing. Everyone is afraid of it. It seems that times are really regressing. Didn't you say that when the Great Calamity descended 10,000 years ago, it caused the inheritances and experts to be burned to the ground? So, it's normal for the current situation to occur, right? Alright, these things are too far away from me now. You should quickly tell me how to restore the might of the Nirvana demon flame. Zhuowen shrugged his shoulders and spoke in an indifferent manner. That's true. Didn't you practice the fire attribute Ardent Sun Extinction? Moreover, you have already mastered it. There are 3 fireballs in your dantian. These fireballs have roughly reached the level of a common level flame. Take them and let the Nirvana demon flame devour them. This way, it can speed up the recovery of the Nirvana demon flame. When Zhuowen heard this, his face immediately revealed an expression of understanding. Previously, Zhuowen had tested the power of the 3 fireballs in his dantian. They were only equivalent to the all-out attack of a Nirvana realm warrior. Now that he had already advanced to the Yin Void realm, the fireballs had little effect on him. Therefore, he rarely used the 3 fireballs in his dantian during a battle. Moreover, after using the 3 fireballs, his body would suffer a certain backlash. However, ever since Zhuowen had practiced the violent blood beast body to the second sky of rampage, the quality of his body had far surpassed that of an ordinary warrior. Therefore, the backlash from the ardent sun extinction was almost negligible to him. Let's give it a try. Zhuowen did things without any hesitation. He tapped between his eyebrows and took out the jade tripod. The black flame at the fire vent at the bottom of the tripod appeared to be rather weak at this moment. Suddenly, he patted the top of the tripod and the black flame in the fire vent immediately flew into Zhuowen's palm. At this moment, the black flame was only the size of a palm. The fluctuation of the flame also became a little weak, like a small beast that was shivering. Staring at the black flame, Zhuowen's fingers suddenly tapped the dantian in his lower abdomen. The fireball in his dantian suddenly shot out slowly from his mouth and finally stopped in front of the black flame. The black flame seemed to have felt the aura of the flame and the fluctuation on its surface suddenly became violent. After that, under Zhuowen's astonished gaze, the black flame transformed into a big mouth and swallowed the fireball. It even started to chew it like a human. During the process of chewing, Zhuowen could clearly feel the aura of the black flame increasing continuously. The aura was no longer as weak as before. It faintly felt like it was expanding. It is indeed effective. Zhuowen's eyes hardened. A glint flashed across his eyes. Soon after, Zhuowen did the same thing and released the other 2 fireballs from his dantian. The black flame also greedily swallowed them. Its aura immediately soared by a couple of times. Its size also expanded from the size of a palm to the size of a human face. With your current recovery ability, you will be able to re-agglomerate 3 fireballs in your dantian in around half a day. You need to feed the Nirvana Demon Flame 3 fireballs every day. The Nirvana Demon Flame should be able to recover after 1 month. 1 month, huh? Zhuowen nodded. His face revealed a relaxed expression. He was able to accept 1 month's time. Brat, releasing all of the Nirvana Demon Flame during a fight is an extremely foolish method. In this way, a lot of energy will be wasted. If you are able to learn how to control the output of the Nirvana Demon Flame, the strength of the Nirvana Demon Flame will definitely be raised to another level. This is just like 2 warriors who have the same yuan power within their bodies. One has the assistance of an armor technique while the other is randomly attacking. In that case, the result would naturally be that the former is stronger. Therefore, technique is sometimes more important than strength. Xiao He stretched her lazy waist and smacked her lips as she spoke. How can the Nirvana Demon Flame be so easy to control? Even though Yu Ding has already refined it, it is basically a fantasy if he wants to control it. Zhuowen's face was quite bitter as he spoke. Do you still remember the divine soul skill that this dragon master has passed to you? Isn't there a fire control chapter within it? The content of the fire control chapter is about how to use mental energy to control the flame. You should go and study it. After all, this divine soul skill is a top-level mental energy tempering technique that was passed down by the alchemists 10,000 years ago. Alright, I will leave first. You can slowly study it yourself. Xiao He rolled her eyes at Zhuowen. Immediately, she transformed into a black light and entered between Zhuowen's eyebrows. Zhuowen was startled. Immediately, he scratched his head in embarrassment. He had only studied the divine soul skill method of tempering mental energy. As for some small techniques, he had not tried them. Thinking of this, Zhuowen immediately shifted the divine soul skill in his mind. Indeed, he discovered the fire control chapter at the end. He was immediately overjoyed. The fire control chapter was very detailed. It introduced how to use mental energy to control a strong flame. Most of the methods in it were to control the flame to refine medicinal pills. Zhuowen only swept through this part of the content. What he really cared about was how to control the flame to fight. With the Supreme Dragon Cauldron, Zhuowen did not need to learn how to refine medicinal pills to obtain high-quality medicinal pills. After searching for a while, he indeed found a small technique to control the flame to fight at the end. This part was divided into an attack chapter and a defense chapter. However, the core was the flame transformation. In other words, using mental energy to control the flame's transformation. This transformation could be used to attack or defend. It was very flexible. Closing his eyes slightly, Zhuowen began to seriously comprehend this small technique in the Fire Control chapter. His expression was serene, time flowed by. The long night passed in the blink of an eye. The pitch-black night in the outside world also gradually turned white. Finally, a ray of warm sunlight shone through the window and fell on the body of a youth sitting cross-legged. Perhaps it was because of the warm sunlight the youth slowly opened his eyes. A ray of light was exposed from his eyes. The fire control technique using mental energy is indeed exquisite. It seems simple, but it is actually very difficult. However, I still have to give it a try. The youth's mouth revealed a bitter smile. Soon after, he took a deep breath and pointed between his eyebrows. He took out the black flame from the jade cauldron. Gazing at the black flame in his palm, the youth's mental energy surged out of his mud pill palace and gently wrapped the black flame. At first, the black flame was very resistant. However, after a while, it seemed to be able to feel that the mental energy was not malicious. Gradually, it became bolder and took the initiative to touch the mental energy. Slightly happy, the youth immediately used his mental energy to guide the black flame to slowly spread over his fists. In an instant, the youth's fists were burning with rolling black flame, which looked quite strange. It seems that I can only control the black flame to cover my fists. However, compared to the battle strength, it has improved a lot. He knew that if the fire control technique was refined, then he could control the flame to change it into weapons with high lethality, such as sabers and spears. Now, he could only cover his fists with a thin layer of black flame. However, even such a thin layer of black flame was very powerful. The void armor on the body of a warrior in the Yin Void realm had amazing defensive power, but under the fist covered with black flame, it was like nothing. Now, Zhuowen was confident that if he faced Wang Meng again, he would not need to use the armor technique. He only needed to use such a small trick to defeat or even kill Wang Meng. After all, the black flame was too restrictive for a warrior in the Yin Void realm. With the help of the black flame, Zhuowen's strength would definitely increase by a few levels. Phew! It's time to go to the governor's mansion to find out about the Vitality Tower. Lightly sighing, Zhuowen put away the Nirvana demon flame. After a simple wash, he directly pushed open the door and headed for the governor's mansion. The governor's mansion was located at the main gate of Rattan Armor City. It was said that there were far more experts than the three big families and the security was much stricter. About an hour later, a palace-like building appeared in front of Zhuowen. There were many pavilions inside, and the levels were clearly defined. Moreover, the main entrance was formed by a vermilion door that was several meters tall. On both sides of the door, there were two huge stone lions sitting there, appearing majestic. Inside the gate, two armored guards stood upright on both sides, looking meticulous. Zhuowen's pupils shrank slightly. He could feel that these two guards were definitely experts in the Yin Void realm. He did not expect that the guards at the gate were also experts in the Yin Void realm. It seemed that the governor's mansion was really powerful. Stop! When he came to the gate, the two guards immediately reached out to stop him. They coldly examined the young man in front of them. Just as Zhuowen was about to identify himself, a familiar voice came from behind him. Chapter 95. Conspiracy. Tilting his head slightly, Zhuowen immediately saw a smiling young man standing behind him. When he saw Zhuowen looking over, the smile on the young man's face grew even wider. Brother Zhuowen, I believe you are here to see the city lord. The young man said with a graceful smile. Zhuowen's gaze narrowed slightly as he stared at the smiling young man. He said indifferently, I never thought that I would run into young Master Gu Shang at the entrance. May I ask why young Master Gu Shang has come to the entrance instead of staying in the estate so early in the morning? Looking at the smiling Gu Shang in front of him, Zhuowen secretly raised a trace of vigilance in his heart. During the battle in the market yesterday, he clearly saw the hatred in Gu Shang's eyes. Furthermore, he did not hesitate to let his father, Gu Lai, tamper with the market battle. If it were not for the city lord, Gu Tian's intervention, it was likely that things would not have ended well. Now that Gu Shang had appeared in front of him with a smile on his face, Zhuowen felt that something was amiss. Actually, I was specially sent by the city lord to receive you. I also know that you do not trust me, but the conflict between the two of us is only a small one. Later on, I was also taught a lesson by the city lord and my father. Therefore, in order to make up for my wrongdoings, the city lord sent me out to personally receive you today. Speaking of which, I am also trying to make up for my wrongdoings. This time, I am also trying to make up for my wrongdoings. Take this as an apology gift. Gu Shang had a smile on his face as he took out a brocade box and handed it to Zhuowen. A grade 4 elixir. Opening the brocade box slightly, Zhuowen immediately felt the rich medicinal power inside. This medicinal power was not inferior to the human-faced nascent ginseng. Looking deeply at Gu Shang, Zhuowen did not stand on ceremony and kept it into his Qianquan bag. He said with a smile, "Since young Master Gu Shang has already done so much, I will naturally not force you. Naturally, the matter between us will be written off. Brother Zhuowen is indeed a straightforward person. I like your character. Now, let's enter the mansion first. Don't let the city lord wait for too long." Gu Shang heaved a sigh of relief. Soon after, he happily patted Zhuowen's shoulder and brought Zhuowen into the mansion. However, the moment Gu Shang turned around, a chilling light shot out from his eyes. The chilling light only lasted for a moment before a warm smile appeared on Gu Shang's face. Not long after the two of them entered the city lord's mansion, a delicate and beautiful figure appeared from within the mansion. The beautiful figure wore a light yellow dress, and her waterfall-like black hair was tied into a cloud bun behind her head. An elegant and graceful temperament was emitted from the woman's body, and the most praiseworthy feature was her pair of flawless, well-proportioned, and perfectly round legs. This woman was the daughter of the city lord, Gu Yu. Gu Yu stood at the entrance and looked around in confusion. The confusion on her face became even more pronounced. "Miss Gu Yu." The guards at the entrance respectfully bowed to Gu Yu. "Did you see a 15-year-old youth come to the city lord's mansion just now?" Gu Yu frowned and asked the guards at the entrance. She had clearly made an appointment with Zhuowen to come to the city lord's mansion today. Now that the time had passed, she didn't expect that Zhuowen still hadn't come. This made her a little unhappy. "Is the youth that Miss Gu Yu is looking for called Zhuowen?" One of the guards said with a fawning smile. "Yes. It's Zhuowen. Could it be that he came?" Gu Yu nodded and said expectantly. That Zhuowen did come, but he was taken away by young Master Gu Shang. It seems that he was brought to see the city lord. Before the guard could finish speaking, Gu Yu's expression changed greatly. Her figure flashed and flew into the mansion. "Father only appointed me to receive Zhuowen. He didn't mention Gu Shang at all. Gu Shang's guts are too big. If anything happens to Zhuowen, he can just wait for father's anger." If it was said that Gu Tian only admired Zhuowen in the beginning, then after she told Gu Tian that Zhuowen had the triple armor soul yesterday, Gu Tian began to pay attention to Zhuowen. After all, Zhuowen had the triplet armor soul and an extremely strong mind power talent. Such a genius would definitely become a terrifying master when he grew up. Furthermore, Zhuowen belonged to Rattan Armor City. If they could build a good relationship with Zhuowen now, the city lord's residence would benefit greatly when the latter became a peerless master in the future. As she thought, Gu Yu's feet moved faster and faster. Very soon, she arrived in front of an ancient-looking pavilion. She pushed open the door, and a tranquil smell of incense slowly wafted out. There were two figures in the room. One of them was a purple-clothed man sitting in front of a sandalwood table. It was the city lord of Rattan Armor City, Gu Tian. The other figure stood in front of Gu Tian. It was actually Gu Shang's father, Gu Lai. The two of them seemed to be talking about something. Due to Gu Yu's violent opening of the door, the two of them simultaneously turned to look at the door and frowned slightly. When he discovered that the intruder was Guyu Tian's frown eased. A warm smile appeared on his face again as he said, Didn't you go to receive Zhuowen? Why have you returned so quickly? Where's Zhuowen now? Guyu's pretty face was a little gloomy. After coldly staring at the calm Gu Lai, she said in a deep voice, Father, Gu Shang falsely passed on your orders and took Zhuowen away. As for where he was taken, I don't know either. Oh? Gu Shang took Zhuowen away. The smile on Guyu Tian's face gradually disappeared, and a trace of cold light spread out from his eyes. He tilted his head and looked at the calm Gu Lai. He coldly said, Second brother, you were the one who leaked the news of Zhuowen's arrival to Gu Shang, right? Speak, where did you take Zhuowen? Gu Lai's expression was still calm. Although he was a little confused by Guyu Tian's questioning, in his opinion, Zhuowen was only a child of the small Zhua family. There was no need to pay attention to him. Big brother. I know that you allowed Zhuowen to come today because you wanted to give him a spot to fight for the Yuanqi Tower. However, he is not a member of the City Lord's mansion. Giving it to an outsider like this is not appropriate. Therefore, I acted on my own initiative and let Shang take Zhuowen to the Hall of Penal Law. That is where that bastard should go. Gu Lai's tone was very calm. Gu Lai, you have gone too far. The conflict between Zhuowen and Gu Shang is insignificant, but you want to kill him. Do you know that by doing this, you will bring unimaginable enemies to the City Lord's mansion in the future? Guyu finally couldn't help but shout. Her shoulders trembled in anger. Gu Lai was startled, and his face immediately became gloomy. As a junior, Guyu dared to question him like this. This made him lose face. He coldly snorted and said, What kind of threat can that bastard pose to the City Lord's mansion? Also, big brother, you should teach Guyu a lesson. Offending a superior like this is too impolite. You don't know Zhuowen at all. It was not by chance that he could win the resurrection battle and even kill a young reality realm warrior with the strength of the Yin Void realm. If you insist on going against Zhuowen, you will really regret it. At this moment, anger had already filled Guyu's mind. She didn't know why she was so angry, but when she heard that Zhuowen had entered the Hall of Penal Law, her heart was filled with anger for no reason. The Hall of Penal Law was considered the most mysterious place in the City Lord's mansion. There were extremely vicious criminals locked inside. These criminals were simply ferocious beasts that killed without blinking an eye. Once someone entered the Hall of Penal Law, it was basically impossible for them to come out alive. This time, Zhuowen will definitely die in the Hall of Penal Law. A dead person will definitely not pose any threat to the City Lord's mansion. Now that what's done can't be undone, big brother, I think you should carefully consider the empty slot in the Vitality Tower. Gu Lai ignored Guyu and looked at Guyu Tian, who had been silent all this time. However, when Gu Lai saw the frighteningly calm expression on Guyu Tian's face, his heart suddenly thumped. He knew very well that once Guyu Tian showed such an expression, it meant that the usually gentle Guyu Tian was truly angry. Could it be that he is angry because of Zhuowen? That's not possible. Gu Lai couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Gu Lai, aren't you looking down on your big brother too much? Let me tell you clearly today that if anything happens to Zhuowen, your son Gu Shang won't be able to live either. A calm yet cold voice rang out from Guyu Tian's mouth, immediately causing Gu Lai's mind to go blank. He angrily said, Big brother, are you confused? Zhuowen is only an outsider. Gu Shang is my own son, your own nephew. Are you going to kill your own nephew for an outsider? Shut up. You don't understand Zhuowen's situation at all. Let me tell you right now, Zhuowen is a natural triple armor soul. His talent is even more outstanding than his father, Zhuowen. Do you still remember Zhua Xiaotian from back then? He reached the ultimate king realm at the age of 25. Later on, Emperor Qing personally made him a marquis. If he hadn't disappeared right after becoming a marquis, our Rattan Armor City would have the qualifications to become an intermediate city long ago, or even an advanced city. And now, a genius even more outstanding than Zhuo Xiaotian has appeared in our Rattan Armor City. This is another chance for our Rattan Armor City to improve, but you want to cut off this hope. The reason is actually just a small conflict. Gu Lai, oh Gu Lai, when did you become so muddle-headed? Gu Tian's expression was still very calm, but the coldness in his words was even more pronounced. Triple armor soul? That bastard actually has a triple armor soul? But even if he has a triple armor soul, he might not be able to reach Zhuo Xiaotian's level. After all, success in the martial way doesn't just rely on armor souls. Gu Lai's voice trembled slightly. Looking at the coldness in Gu Tian's eyes, he couldn't help but feel the hairs on his back stand on end. Even if his martial achievements can't reach Zhuo Xiaotian's level, do you know why Grandmaster Kuraki took him in as a disciple? Do you think his spiritual energy is only passable? You're wrong again. The result of his spiritual energy test is high grade. This is second only to exceptional talent. As for what high-grade spiritual energy means, I don't need to tell you. This kid's spiritual energy cultivation will at least reach the level of a grade 4 Arcana Master in the future. If he makes a small breakthrough, he might even reach grade 5. A grade 5 Arcana Master. That's an existence on par with the marquises of an empire. When the time comes, this kid only needs to casually give a suggestion, and our Rattan Armor City will be able to expand our territory and increase our rank. Endless benefits will fall upon us. However, if this kid dies, our Rattan Armor City will have no chance to increase its rank. Grandmaster Kuraki will even have to leave Rattan Armor City. When that happens, the other cities that are eyeing us covetously will very likely attack us. Do you know how serious the consequences will be? When Gu Lai heard this, his face immediately became incomparably pale. He didn't think that Zhuowen's martial talent and spiritual energy talent would be so shocking. At this moment, regret gradually rose in his eyes. Humph. I'll go take a look at the Hall of Penal Law first. If Zhuowen really does unfortunately die, your son Gu Shang won't be able to live either. I'll do as I say. Chapter 96. Chapter 96 Hall of Criminal Law. Along the way, Gu Shang silently led the way in front, while Zhuowen followed behind as if nothing had happened. The two of them did not say a word, and the atmosphere was rather strange. Brat! This Gu Shang fellow is a little strange. Furthermore, he hides a knife behind his smile. Do you really believe his words? Xiao Hei's words rang out in Zhuowen's mind. Gu Shang is a narrow-minded person who will definitely seek revenge for the smallest grievance. I also know that this person will definitely not settle things peacefully. Moreover, his attitude just now was a little too enthusiastic. There must be something wrong. However, I'm not familiar with the city lord's mansion at all, so I can only let Gu Shang lead the way. And this time, I'm being received by the governor of the governor's manor, the governor of Vine Armor City, Gu Tian. I don't think Gu Tian will do anything out of line. Otherwise, Gu Tian's anger won't be easy to bear. Zhuowen secretly communicated with Xiao Hei in his mind. However, his eyes were rather cautious as he stared at Gu Shang in front of him. Although he was confident that Gu Shang would not act recklessly in the city governor's mansion, it was still best to be careful. After bypassing a rockery, a black building suddenly appeared in front of him. The building was similar to a palace, but its appearance was not as grand and majestic as a palace. Instead, it was incomparably dark and looked quite strange. Moreover, the door in front of the building was actually made of black iron. The guards standing at the door were all wearing ghost masks and holding black halberds. They stood in front of the door meticulously. Zhuowen could feel that the aura of these two guards was even stronger than that of the guards in front of the gate of the Castellan mansion. They must be quite powerful in the Yin Void realm. Brother Zhuowen, this is where the city lord usually meets people. Let's go in. Gu Shang tilted his head and said with a fawning smile. Thank you for leading the way, young Master Gu Shang. Zhuowen cupped his hands together indifferently. However, he frowned slightly. He could sense an unusual aura within this building. Just as Zhuowen was observing the building in front of him, a wave of desire was immediately transmitted from his sea of consciousness. Zhuowen frowned. He could sense that this wave was actually transmitted from within the Jade Cauldron. More accurately, it was a message transmitted from the Nirvana demon flame within the Jade Cauldron. Xiao He. Why has the Nirvana demon flame suddenly become agitated? Zhuowen immediately asked Xiao He in the sea with a little confusion. This long I can sense that this aura. This aura is a great temptation to the Nirvana demon flame. If the Nirvana demon flame is able to devour this evil aura, its recovery speed will definitely increase greatly. Its might even be stronger than before. But no matter how you look at it, this place looks like a prison. I'm afraid this Gu Shang doesn't have any good intentions and wants to harm you. If you still want to go in, why don't you just retreat? Xiao He's voice carried a little seriousness. It can greatly increase the strength of the Nirvana demon flame. A glint suddenly erupted from Zhuowen's eyes. The Nirvana demon flame was currently his greatest trump card. With the existence of the Nirvana demon flame, his strength was already invincible within the Yin Void stage. He could even put up a fight against a corporeal Yang stage expert. Therefore, it was very difficult for him to reject the opportunity to quickly recover the Nirvana demon flame. From the looks of it, you should be planning to enter. You clearly know that there is a tiger in the mountain, yet you still insist on entering the mountain. I really don't know if you are brave or reckless. Xiao He's voice carried a little dissatisfaction. One naturally has to experience danger if one wishes to gain something. Although I have already confirmed that Gu Shang's intentions are not pure, it is likely that he will not dare to go overboard. Moreover, there is an aura inside that can increase the strength of the Nirvana demon flame. All the more reason for me to give it a try. Zhuowen parted his mouth and looked at the large door in front of him. His eyes revealed a trace of anticipation. Gu Shang conversed a little with the two black-armored guards in front of the door. The two black-armored guards glanced at Zhuowen's side and immediately nodded. After which, Gu Shang led Zhuowen and stepped into the large door. There was a deep tunnel behind the large door. The tunnel was around the height of a person and half a person wide. The two sides of the tunnel were made from black metal, causing it to appear sinister and dark. The two of them walked to the end after around 15 minutes. There was a metal door at the end. Gu Shang took out a key from his chest and swiftly opened the metal door. Clang! The metal door was opened and a spacious hall appeared in front of the two of them. The interior was very spacious. There was only a stone table and a stone bench placed in the middle. The entire hall appeared quite desolate. There were 3 similar metal doors on the other 3 sides of the hall. No one knew where these metal doors led to. Zhuowen was able to sense the fluctuation of the Nirvana demon flame in his sea of consciousness becoming increasingly intense after arriving in the hall. It was just like a hungry person who had smelled a fragrant dish and was ready to move. Clang! The metal door on the opposite side suddenly opened. A tall middle-aged man wearing black armor slowly walked out from the metal door. A group of fully armed black-armored soldiers followed behind the middle-aged man. Zhuowen was able to sense that the black-armored soldiers were all above the Yin Void stage. The aura of the middle-aged man wearing black armor standing in front of the soldiers was the strongest. His body faintly revealed a trace of blazing aura. Clearly, this was the Yang Yuan Qi that was unique to corporeal Yang stage warriors. Moreover, the aura that the middle-aged man revealed was not much different from Wang Shua, who had fought with Zhuowen the other day. Clearly, he was also a warrior who had just stepped into the corporeal Yang stage. How dare you trespass into the Hall of Penal Law? Take these 2 people down and detain them first. The middle-aged man stared coldly at Gu Shang and Zhuowen in the hall. His cold voice was as cold as the winter snow. Big Brother Yen, do you still remember me? I am Gu Shang. Gu Shang's expression changed drastically when he saw the middle-aged man attack as soon as he said so. He hurriedly shouted. Gu Shang! Gu Shang, the son of Lord Gu Lai. The middle-aged man was startled. He immediately waved his right hand and stopped the soldiers who were about to arrest the two. Yes, yes. That's me. So Big Brother Yen still remembers me. Gu Shang's face revealed a relaxed smile as he gently came to the middle-aged man's side and laughed. It's been many years since we last met. I didn't expect you to have grown so much. Ever since I entered the Hall of Penal Law 10 years ago, I have almost never stepped outside. I think things have changed by now. However, the Hall of Penal Law is a forbidden area in the mansion. How did you enter it? It won't be a good thing if the city lord finds out. The middle-aged man's cold face revealed a rare smile. Soon after, he became serious again and warned. It's fine. When I was young, Big Brother Yen loved me the most. Now that we haven't met for more than 10 years, I miss you. So I came to see you. Gu Shang said with a smile. You are so considerate. Your big brother's heart is warmed by your words. Just because of your words, you should accompany me for a few drinks before you leave. And who is this brother? Could he be your friend? The cold expression on the middle-aged man's face had already disappeared. His face was full of smiles as he stared at the silent Zhuowen. I'm sorry, Big Brother Yen. This person is not my friend. I don't even know him. The corners of Gu Shang's mouth curled into a complacent arc. His eyes stared mockingly at the silent Zhuowen who was not far away. Oh? Isn't this person your friend? The smile on the middle-aged man's face slowly disappeared. Traces of cruel and cold light were slowly released from his eyes. Since he's not your friend, trespassing into the Hall of Penal Law is a serious crime. Men, take him down. Yes. A group of black-armored soldiers behind the middle-aged man responded respectfully. Soon after, they surrounded Zhuowen. Gu Shang. You really do not have good intentions. Don't you know that I am someone personally invited by the city governor? Now, you have brought me to such a place. If the city governor were to know about this, aren't you afraid that the city governor would blame you? Zhuowen's eyes hardened. There was a trace of killing intent surfacing in his eyes as he looked at Gu Shang. Although he had already guessed in his heart that Gu Shang's intentions were impure, Zhuowen had voluntarily entered this so-called Hall of Penal Law due to his relationship with the Nirvana demon flame. However, this little action of Gu Shang caused Zhuowen to be extremely displeased. Originally, he thought that there was only a small conflict between him and Gu Shang. However, Gu Shang's actions of targeting him had caused Zhuowen's tolerance to slowly decrease. Gu Shang also sensed the dense chilliness within Zhuowen's eyes. His heart involuntarily shivered. He immediately mocked, do you know how many experts are hidden within the Hall of Penal Law? There are 5 young corporeal stage experts within. Moreover, the chief of the Hall of Penal Law is a half-step to the Zhao King stage expert. Don't tell me that you dare to mess around in this place. He. The one who brought me into the Hall of Penal Law is you, Gu Shang. If we are to talk about responsibility, it is also your responsibility. Moreover, the city governor has already left a spot for me in the Yuan Energy Tower. Can't you see how much the city governor values me? If I die, all of you will have to suffer the fury of the city governor. Zhuowen retorted. The middle-aged man's expression immediately became ugly when he heard this. His gaze turned towards Gu Shang and his face revealed an inquiring expression. If what Zhuowen said was true, it would really be difficult for them to act against Zhuowen. Big Brother Yen, you can be rest assured. Currently, my father is one of the only 2 Zhao King stage experts in the city governor's mansion. His authority is only below the city governor's. As long as we kill this brat now, the city governor will not rashly touch us given my father's strength and authority. After all, no one will risk their life for a dead person. As long as you can get rid of this person, I will have my father transfer you out of the Hall of Beheadings and Executions and give you a higher position and greater authority. As long as you kill this person, your life and future will be greatly improved. Gu Shang also noticed the hesitation on the middle-aged man's face and hurriedly promised. Good. If Brother Gu Shang is really confident, then I will take a gamble today. As he spoke, the middle-aged man coldly looked at the youth in front of him. He waved his hand and said, "Capture this person and execute him on the spot." Once the 10 black-armored soldiers received the order, they immediately raised their black halberds and fiercely stabbed at the youth in the middle. It was obvious that they did not want to leave him alive. With a cold snort, Zhuowen lightly tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and dodged the incoming black halberd. He coldly stared at the middle-aged man not far away and said, "I really hope you won't regret it in the end. If you kill me, you will be used as a scapegoat by Gu Shang. Could it be that you still don't understand the situation?" Chapter 97. Shifting the blame. Big Brother Yen, do not be fooled by this person. I definitely do not have such thoughts. Moreover, even if you release this person now, it is already too late. After all, allowing someone to barge into the interior of the Hall of Penal Law is a serious crime. The both of us are actually grasshoppers on the same rope. Gu Shang involuntarily cried out in a somewhat anxious manner when he saw the hesitation on the face of the man surnamed Yen. The man surnamed Yen was startled. He immediately looked deeply at Gu Shang before waving his hand and crying out, "Kill this person on the spot. Do not let this person escape from this place." Once they finished speaking, the 10 black-armored soldiers released the Yuan power within their bodies without any hesitation. In an instant, the entire hall was covered under the fluctuation of Yuan power. Zhuowen's footsteps continued to move as he dodged the attacks of the 10 black-armored soldiers. His eyes had also become much gloomier. "You are the one who forced me to do this." Zhuowen violently threw down these words. His right hand pressed on his brow and immediately summoned the jade cauldron. His right hand gently patted the bottom of the jade cauldron and a black flame the size of a human face slowly appeared. The temperature of the hall immediately rose sharply when the black flame appeared. The originally dark and cold hall was actually incomparably hot like a furnace at this moment. Threads of hot air were continuously being emitted from the ground. This is the Nirvana demon flame. Oh my god, this fellow actually has such an evil thing. Moreover, it looks like he can control it. The eyes of the man surnamed Yen protruded. Threads of disbelief rose within his eyes. His mouth involuntarily widened as he cried out in shock. The corner of Zhuowen's mouth immediately revealed a dark and vicious smile when the words of the man surnamed Yen sounded. The mental energy of his Naiwen palace was released and the black flame slowly spread over the surface of both of Zhuowen's fists. It was as though his fists were wearing a pair of gloves. However, this pair of gloves was purely formed from the strange black flame. The 10 black-armored soldiers also sensed the powerful aura of the strange black flame in the hands of the young man in front of them. Although their faces revealed a strange expression, they did not stop their charging bodies. Clang! A cold glint flashed and a black halberd suddenly pierced toward the spot between Zhuowen's brows. Raising his hand slightly, Zhuowen did not dodge. Instead, his right hand suddenly extended out like a snake and actually grabbed the black halberd with his bare hand. The smile on the face of the soldier holding the halberd immediately stiffened. This was because he saw that the black halberd had actually turned into nothingness in the hands of the young man. More accurately, it was completely swallowed by the black flame. How is this possible? The soldier felt a chill in his heart. Soon after, he saw the palm wrapped in black flames coming towards him. A trace of cold sweat slowly flowed down from the soldier's forehead. He suddenly unleashed the Yuan power in his body. Cold air immediately covered his entire body, turning into a cold and dense void armor. His palm also landed on the former's chest the moment the void armor formed. A scene that stunned everyone appeared. The void armor, which was unique to warriors in the Yin Void realm, was shattered like paper under the strange black hand. The blazing black flame penetrated the void armor and fell on the soldier's body. Whoosh! With a scream, the soldier with the cultivation of the Yin Void realm was instantly enveloped by the black flame. The scream stopped abruptly, and the soldier disappeared without a trace, leaving only a pile of ashes. The entire place immediately fell silent, as if time had stopped. The remaining 9 soldiers, the man surnamed Yan, and Gu Shang all stared blankly at the pile of ashes on the ground. The place had become terrifyingly quiet. No one had expected that an expert in the Void realm would be killed by a young man who was only about 15 years old in one move. Moreover, he died without a complete corpse. Gazing at the young man who was not far away, everyone present felt a chill in their hearts. You killed Acho. I'll make you pay with your life for Achos. The eyes of the remaining 9 soldiers in black armor suddenly became extremely red. The 10 of them had worked together for more than 10 years, and their relationship was almost like that of brothers. Now that one of them had died, the other 9 soldiers in black armor were filled with grief and indignation. Their gazes towards Zhuowen became filled with resentment and hatred. Whoosh! Whoosh! Powerful origin energy abruptly erupted from the bodies of the 9 black armors. After that, the 9 of them waved their black halberds with great tacit understanding and abruptly flashed straight towards Zhuowen with surging killing intent and an indomitable will. Zhuowen stood in the same place, straightening his back. There was no fear on his face. His muscles tightened, and countless bloodlines crisscrossed on the surface of his body. Howl! Endless blood light burst out from his body, and a huge illusory ape slowly condensed behind him. Immediately, the ape clenched its right fist and made a crackling sound. Then, it suddenly punched out. Boom! The powerful Yuan power violently swept through the entire hall, and the remaining stone tables and benches in the hall turned into powder under the aftermath of this power. Under this punch, the 9 people who were besieging him immediately spat out blood. However, the 9 of them were unyielding. They forcefully endured the injuries on their bodies and desperately urged the Yuan power in their bodies. A huge black halberd shadow condensed in front of them. Armor-breaking halberd! The 9 people shouted in unison. The huge black halberd pierced through the void and turned into a fierce black light, rushing towards Zhuowen. Boom! The black halberd actually pierced through the illusory ape in an instant. Soon after, under the surprised gazes of the 9 people, it rushed towards Zhuowen's forehead. Its powerful speed seemed to have torn the space apart, and it let out an ear-piercing rumbling sound. Under the black halberd, the youth gently raised his head. His hair fluttered in the wind, and a trace of an arc bloomed at the corner of his mouth. The youth's hands moved continuously, and the fist that was covered in black flames fiercely swung upwards. The powerful Yuan power and the black flames continuously intertwined, and for a moment, it actually became dazzling and colorful. Under everyone's incredulous gazes, the youth's fist fiercely swung out. At the instant when it came into contact with the huge black halberd, there was no earth-shattering explosion of energy, nor was there any earth-shattering sound. There was only the faint crackling sound of the strange black flames burning faintly. The object of the burning was the huge black halberd. Under the burning of the black flames, the majestic black halberd slowly melted like ice in June, and finally turned into nothingness. The smiles on the faces of the 9 black-armored soldiers gradually froze, and a trace of horror slowly spread across their faces. The armor-breaking halberd was their combined armor technique, and also their strongest move. It was difficult for even a warrior in the 9th level of the Void realm to resist this move. But now, it had been easily blocked by a youth who had just entered the Void realm. This huge contrast made the 9 black-armored soldiers, who had experienced hundreds of battles, feel somewhat incredulous. Have you had a good fight? Since you've had a good fight, it's my turn now. The light voice slowly sounded in the hall. Immediately, the youth standing not far away suddenly turned into an indiscernible illusory shadow in front of everyone. Lowering his waist, Zhuowen came in front of the nearest soldier like a vigorous cheetah. His right hand, which was covered with black flames, gently stretched out and penetrated the soldier's heart. After his right hand was pulled out, another pile of ashes was left on the ground. At this moment, Zhuowen seemed to have transformed into a death god who had stepped out of an endless hell. Every time he took a step, a fresh life would disappear. The blazing temperature of the Nirvana demon flame restrained the void armor of a warrior in the Void realm. Although the Nirvana demon flame in Zhuowen's hand was not as powerful as before, it was more than enough to deal with a warrior in the Yin Void realm. Therefore, Zhuowen, who was also a warrior in the Yin Void realm, was able to instantly kill the 9 black-armored soldiers whose realms were higher than his. Ah! When the last scream sounded, the 9 black-armored soldiers in the field all turned into a pile of ashes. Only the pale-faced Gu Shang and the man with the surname of Yen were left in the field. Gulp. Gu Shang's throat moved with difficulty. Looking at the piles of ashes in the field, his face became even paler. During the battle of the marketplace, he stood on the platform and looked down. He didn't feel much when Zhuowen killed Wang Shua. Now, seeing the 10 powerful black-armored soldiers turn into a pile of ashes at such a close distance, it was absolutely like a nightmare for Gu Shang, who had never experienced a bloody scene. Zhuowen. You're finished. You dared to kill the black-armored soldiers of the Hall of Penal Law without permission. You have violated the bottom line of the governor's mansion. You will become a sinner of the governor's mansion. Gu Shang's voice was trembling, but he was still full of energy. After all, this was the Hall of Penal Law, where there were countless experts. He was afraid that the movement here had already attracted the attention of other experts hidden in the hall. Once these experts took action, no matter how unfathomable Zhuowen was, he would definitely die. Once Zhuowen died, his goal would be achieved. You forced me to do this. Even if I die today, I'll drag you down with me. Gu Shang, you can die now. Zhuowen's eyes were scarlet red as he coldly stared at Gu Shang. Soon after, his legs shot out, and his entire body shot towards Gu Shang like a cannonball. The black flames in his hands burned even more fiercely. Gu Shang's face turned even paler as he stared at the approaching figure. Rolling like a wild donkey, he miserably hid behind the man with the surname Yen. The man with the surname Yen solemnly stared at the approaching Zhuowen. He suddenly took a step forward, and a powerful aura surged out from his body as he threw out a punch. Zhuowen, even if you weren't in the wrong earlier, you've killed 10 black-armored soldiers. Therefore, you won't be able to escape the pursuit of our Hall of Penal Law. The dignity of our Hall of Penal Law cannot be violated. You'd better be captured now, or you're dead meat. Zhuowen coldly smiled, ignoring the man with the surname Yan's words. He suddenly threw out both his fists, and the black flames on the surface of his fists immediately surged out, becoming even more intense. Bang! The fists of the two suddenly collided. Immediately, a strong wind blew between the two of them, and the surging energy enveloped the entire hall. With a cracking sound, the floor of the hall began to crack, as if it couldn't withstand the energy of the two of them. Finally, it abruptly collapsed, and the hall began to shake under the impact of the two of them. Dang dang dang! The eyes of the man with the surname Yen shrunk. Under the powerful burning force of the black flames, he let out a muffled groan and took 3 steps back. His gaze was somewhat surprised as he stared at the young man, who also took a few steps back. The young man in front of him was only 15 years old. On the surface, his cultivation was clearly at the Yin Void realm. However, the young man's strength was actually not weaker than his. Although he knew that the young man's strength relied on the strange Nirvana demon flame, being able to control the Nirvana demon flame was already a part of his strength. He finally knew why the city governor had given the quota of the Yuan-Chi Tower to the young man in front of him. It was because this young man was too monstrous. Even the city governor had attached great importance to him. The man with the surname Yen glanced at Gu Shang, who was trembling behind him, and shook his head slightly. A trace of regret rose in his eyes. Offending a young man with abnormal talent and strength for an incompetent hedonistic Gu Shang was really not worth the loss. Zhuowen, who had taken a few steps back, shook his head helplessly. The strength of the man with the surname Yen was similar to Wang Shua back then. Currently, the Nirvana demon flame in Zhuowen's body had not recovered. It was really difficult for him to deal with the man with the surname Yen. Chapter 98. Sudden changes clang. The heavy metal doors on both sides were suddenly opened. The sound of heavy metal stepping on the ground also clearly sounded in the hall. Two middle-aged men wearing similar black armor each led a group of black-armored soldiers and barged in. Their eyes were focused on the remaining 3 people in the hall. One of the white-haired men glanced at the man surnamed Yen and said with some displeasure, "Yen Jia, what are you doing? Why did you create such a big commotion? Also, who are these 2 fellows? Why did they barge into the Hall of Law and Punishment?" When the man surnamed Yen saw that 2 more groups of black-armored soldiers had arrived, his solemn face immediately revealed a wild joy. He raised his right hand and pointed at Zhuowen and said, "Lin Yao, you have come at the right time. Quickly capture this brat. The 10 black-armored soldiers under my command have been killed by this brat. Such an unscrupulous action is enough to tear him into pieces." The white-haired man called Lin Yao looked at Zhuowen with a surprised expression. He said with some surprise, "This brat stinking of milk is able to kill the black-armored soldiers. Yen Jia, have you become muddle-headed? The black-armored soldiers are all elite Yin Void stage warriors. This brat's aura is only at the initial Yin Void stage. How could he kill 10 black-armored soldiers? You should believe it. This brat is very strange. He actually has the Nirvana demon flame in his body. The ashes on the ground are the corpses of my subordinates. We must join forces to capture this brat." The man surnamed Yen pointed at the ashes in the corner and spoke with some urgency. Lin Yao's eyes widened. He also saw the ashes in the corner. With his observation ability, he could naturally feel that these ashes did indeed have the unique aura of the black-armored soldiers. In other words, what Yen Jia said was very likely true. Damn it! What is the background of this brat? He actually has the Nirvana demon flame in his body. Moreover, he is not affected in the slightest. However, the dignity of our Hall of Law and Punishment cannot be violated. Since he has killed people, this brat can forget about coming out alive. Lin Ku, let's attack together and capture this brat first. A trace of anger appeared in Lin Yao's eyes. It was obvious that he had a bad temper. The elemental energy in his body suddenly surged, and a powerful astral wind revolved around his body. With a spring of his legs, he took the lead and rushed toward Zhuowen. Behind Lin Yao, the man named Lin Ku, who had been silent all this while, also secretly circulated his elemental energy. He followed behind Lin Yao, intending to attack Zhuowen together. Seeing the 2 attack at the same time, Yen Jia's eyes flashed with viciousness. He also launched a powerful attack towards Zhuowen. The 3 powerful corporeal yang experts working together caused the hall to shine like the sun. Brat! Do not meet force with these 3 fellows. Even if you have the Nirvana demon flame in your hands now, it is still very difficult for you to be a match for these 3 fellows. I can sense a dark and cold evil aura deep within the door behind you. This evil aura is coincidentally a great supplement for the Nirvana demon flame. Endure this attack and directly enter the metal door behind you. Find an opportunity to let the Nirvana demon flame recover. Once the Nirvana demon flame recovers, it may not be able to defeat the combined forces of the 3 corporeal yang realm warriors. However, it is still possible for you to easily leave this place. Xiao Hei's solemn voice also sounded in Zhuowen's mind. It was also aware that Zhuowen's current situation was extremely bad. Lin Yao glanced behind him. Sure enough, he discovered that a metal door was wide open. His original aim of entering this place was to search for the aura that caused the Nirvana demon flame to become agitated. Once he found it, his aim would naturally be achieved. Rumble. 3 wind sounds cut through the air. They were just like 3 rays of light that suddenly shot in all directions around Zhuowen's body, sealing off all of his escape routes. Zhuowen inhaled a deep breath of air. He knew that he must block this attack if he wanted to enter the metal door behind him. Zhuowen's eyes hardened. He threw a punch forward without any fear. Countless number of dragon roars whistled out from within his body. His powerful aura also caused the muscles all over his body to emit a cracking sound. Chaotic Dragon Roar Fist, 9 Dragon Roar. 9 dazzling 5-clawed golden dragons suddenly leaped out. Their enormous dragon claws unceremoniously tore at Yan Jie's group. Brat who overestimates himself. Lin Yao took the lead to take a step forward. His fist carried a rich yuan power as it smashed onto the 9 golden dragons. A violent strength also instantly erupted. The 9 golden dragons immediately broke apart an inch at a time under this punch of Lin Yao's. Yan Jia and Xiao He behind him took the lead and leaped forward. Their powerful fist strength suddenly smashed toward Zhuowen's chest. Zhuowen let out a cold snort. His toes suddenly stomped on the ground. His entire body appeared to be floating as he suddenly pulled back. The fists of the 3 of them chased closely after him. The powerful energy ripples caused Zhuowen's chest to feel a little stuffy. Zhuowen's right leg pushed back and his body immediately came to a stop. Both of his fists were pushed forward. The black flame on his fist immediately surged out. In an instant, both of Zhuowen's arms were also covered by the black flame. Bang! The hot black flame suddenly collided with the 3 powerful attacks. Immediately, the large hall once again shook intensely. Countless number of rock fragments fell from the top of the large hall. It was as though the large hall was about to collapse at this moment. Puff! Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood. With a muffled groan, Zhuowen continuously retreated until his entire body hit the wall. At this time, Zhuowen also became quite embarrassed. Both of his sleeves had already been torn to shreds under the powerful force. Under Zhuowen's desperate attack, the encirclement of the 3 of them was instantly broken. Yan Jia and the other 2 leaned their bodies slightly, revealing a large gap. A bright light flashed in Zhuowen's eyes as he forcefully endured the injuries in his body. He stomped on the ground with the tip of his foot. The moment the gap appeared, his entire body flew out like a nimble bird. With a few flashes, he entered the iron door closest to him. The scene instantly became incomparably silent. Whether it was the retreating Yan Jia and the other 2, the black-armored soldiers they brought, or Gu Shang who was squatting in the corner, all of them fell into a strange silence. This was because they saw with their own eyes that a young man who had just entered the Yin Void Realm actually broke through the encirclement of 3 Yang Void Realm warriors. Motherfucker! Who the hell is this young man? How can he be so abnormal? Even if the city governor's son, Gu Xian, had just entered the Yin Void Realm, it would be impossible for him to break through under the encirclement of the 3 of us. Lin Yao was the first to recover from the shock and said angrily. On the other hand, Link and Yan Jia fell into silence. Yan Jia was the most astonished of them all. As he stared at the disappearing figure, he faintly felt that helping Gu Shang deal with Zhuowen was the stupidest thing he had ever done in his life. We have to go in and catch that young man. Moreover, the iron door he just went through is the entire Hall of Penal Law's heavy punishment area. It has imprisoned many vicious warriors for many years. If this young man makes a little trouble and releases these felons, the Hall of Penal Law will definitely be in chaos, Yan Jia said with a gloomy expression. He already felt that things were getting more and more serious. If things were going to turn out like this, he should not have agreed to Gu Shang's request. Damn it! Who the hell brought this young man in? If the Hall of Penal Law is really in chaos this time, that young man will have to take all the blame. Lin Yao's eyes were red as he quickly fixed his gaze on Gu Shang, who was trembling in the corner. It's you, right? You'd better give us an explanation. Otherwise, we'll take you to see the Hall Master immediately. Lin Yao suddenly stepped in front of Gu Shang and grabbed his collar with one hand. His eyes were cold as he spoke. No, no. I'm Gu Lai's son. You can't convict me. My father has a lot of power in the city governor's mansion. Gu Shang also faintly felt that this matter was getting out of hand. At this moment, his mind was like a bucket of paste and he had no idea what to do. However, he still remembered that his father was Gu Lai. He knew how powerful his father was in the city governor's mansion. He believed that as long as he mentioned his father's name, these people would definitely not dare to touch him. Gu Lai's son. I didn't expect a coward like you to be Gu Lai's son. However, do you think that by mentioning Lord Gu Lai, you can escape all responsibility? Let me tell you, the Hall of Penal Law was built by the city governor with his blood, sweat, and tears. It's the place that he values the most. This matter involves the city governor. Even Lord Gulai won't be able to stand up for you. Other than causing trouble for your father, what else can a piece of trash like you do? Even that brat who caused trouble just now is a million times better than you. Men, detain him first. We'll wait for the hall master to arrive before making a decision. Lin Yao didn't care about Gu Shang at all. With a casual flick of his hand, he threw Gu Shang to the black armored soldiers behind him. The black armored soldiers were also very nimble. They caught Gu Shang and used chains to lock him up. How dare you treat me like this? I'm Gu Lai's son. If my father finds out, all of you will die. Gu Shang was somewhat unwilling. Although he was terrified, he still had some confidence. Slap! A crisp sound rang out. Lin Yao gave Gu Shang a fierce slap and said coldly, "If you make a ruckus again, I'll kill you immediately." Let me tell you, the Hall of Penal Law only listens to the city governor. Even Lord Gulai doesn't have the right to capture us. In other words, even if we kill you, as long as the city governor doesn't give the order, Gulai can't do anything to us. The burning pain on his face immediately woke Gu Shang up. Looking at the cold killing intent on Lin Yao's face, he knew that this person would definitely do as he said. He immediately lowered his head and didn't dare to say anything. Chapter 99. Evil Fiend Demon Bead. The dark corridor was filled with a damp and moldy stench. A dense and cold aura spread throughout the entire corridor. Xiao Hei. I can sense the fluctuation of the Nirvana demon flame in my sea of consciousness. This fellow seems to be extremely thirsty. Where is the evil aura that you speak of? Zhuowen silently ran through the dark and cold corridor. At the same time, he communicated with Xiao Hei in his sea of consciousness. We're almost there. It should be around 100 meters ahead. Xiao Hei's voice was transmitted into Zhuowen's ears in a timely manner. After receiving confirmation, Zhuowen did not say anything else. He merely focused on running through the corridor. At the same time, he cautiously observed his surroundings. He knew that there seemed to be quite a number of young corporeal stage practitioners in this hall of punishment. Currently, even if 3 young corporeal stage practitioners joined forces, he would not be able to handle them. If a few more came, he would definitely die. Currently, his only chance was to increase the strength of the Nirvana demon flame. Only in this way would he be able to walk out of the hall of punishment alive. Thud thud thud. After making another turn, Zhuowen quickly saw a metal door appear in front of him. There were 2 black-armored soldiers guarding the metal door. Who is it? How dare you trespass into the area of serious criminals? You are seeking death. The 2 black-armored soldiers also discovered the sudden appearance of Zhuowen. Without saying anything, they held their black halberds and stabbed at Zhuowen's vital points. Clearly, they wanted to kill Zhuowen on the spot. With a cold snort, Zhuowen gently stepped on the ground. His entire body was like an elegant cheetah as he dodged the attacks of the 2 black-armored soldiers. Immediately, both of his hands gently patted the chest of the 2 soldiers. Blazing black flames immediately spread from his palms to their bodies. Before the 2 black-armored soldiers could even react, they were burned into ashes by the black flames. After killing the 2 black-armored soldiers, Zhuowen took a big stride forward and arrived at the metal door. Black flames suddenly emerged from his right hand and instantly melted the chains at the side of the metal door. Clang! The door opened with an ear-piercing sound. After opening the iron door, Zhuowen disappeared through the door in a flash. The stench and chilling aura behind the metal door became even thicker. Even Zhuowen could not help but frown slightly. He roughly scanned the surroundings and locked his gaze on the ceiling. The room was very spacious, and the walls were all made of black iron. The whole room seemed very gloomy. 10 meters above the ceiling of the room, there was a huge iron chain that was as thick as two people hugging it. At the bottom of the iron chain was a hook that was bent 180 degrees, and hanging on the hook was a huge iron cage. The size of the iron cage was comparable to a large hall. It was rather strange to see it hanging in the room. What surprised Zhuowen even more was that there were many figures sitting cross-legged in the cages. They seemed to be cultivating. There were dozens of such figures in the cages. Zhuowen knew that these figures in the cages should be the felons locked up here. It was said that these felons were extremely vicious villains before they were caught. Every one of them had a blood debt in their hands. After a rough scan of the cages, he found that the cultivation of these figures was basically at the peak of the soul transformation realm. Only a few of them were above the nirvana realm. The aura of the figure in a black cloak sitting cross-legged in the middle of the cages was far above the others. He had actually reached the void realm. Didn't you just deliver food? Why are you here again? Zhuowen's intrusion attracted the attention of these figures sitting cross-legged. Some of them even complained from time to time. However, when these people saw that it was a teenager with blood-stained clothes who came in, they were all stunned. Where did this little guy come from? He actually entered the felon area? Hee. It seems that he is a newcomer. Look at this kid's white and tender skin. TSK, he can be used as a woman. Everyone hasn't touched a woman for many years. When this kid comes in, everyone will have a share. Almost everyone in the cages focused their gaze on Zhuowen. Among them, there were a few gazes that contained a trace of malice. They stared at the teenager outside the cages with ridicule. You are courting death. Coldly staring in the direction of the cages, Zhuowen revealed a trace of a cruel smile. His figure flashed and his entire body turned into an afterimage that was difficult to be caught by the naked eye. Everyone in the cages only felt their vision blur. Soon after, they were shocked to find that the two most arrogant men had their necks grabbed by the hands of the teenager from outside the cages. You haven't played with women for a long time, right? Then you can go to hell together and play slowly. An indifferent voice slowly sounded in the cages. The two men who were grabbed by the neck rolled their eyes wildly. Their eyes were filled with horror as they stared at the indifferent teenager outside the cages. With a gentle squeeze of both hands, the two men's eyes widened and their necks were broken. They died. Bang! With a casual toss of both hands, the two dead bodies fell heavily to the ground. Gulp! The scene suddenly fell into silence. The other people in the cages couldn't help but gulp a few times. The swallowing sound was quite loud in this empty space. Warrior of the void realm? Someone shouted. The ridicule on the faces of the other people in the cages suddenly disappeared. They all quietly stepped back a few steps and looked at the indifferent teenager outside the cages with trepidation. It should be known that the two martial artists killed by the young man earlier were genuine Nirvana realm martial artists. They relied on their formidable martial strength and were used to being arrogant in the iron cage. However, they did not expect that they would kick an iron plate and pay with their lives. Ignoring the reactions of the other people in the cages, Zhuowen's clear eyes stared straight at the black-cloaked figure sitting in the center of the cages. Just now, Xiao He had clearly sensed that the aura was emitted from this person. Although Zhuowen could sense that this person's aura was only around the void realm, he could acutely sense that this person was not simple. Moreover, Zhuowen could sense that the fluctuation of the nirvana demon flame in his body had already reached its peak. He knew that the thing that the nirvana demon flame desired the most was definitely in the hands of the black-cloaked man. Hand over that thing or die. Zhuowen stared coldly at the black-clothed man in the middle of the cages. He spread out his right hand and spoke faintly. Zhuowen's question seemed to have attracted the attention of the black-clothed man. He raised his head slightly. His face, which was covered by the cloak, emitted two sharp green lights. He gently raised his right hand and revealed a withered branch-like arm. An old and hoarse voice slowly spread throughout the entire space. Is this the thing that you are talking about? With a glance from the corner of his eyes, Zhuowen immediately saw an ink-black bead quietly lying in the palm of the black-clothed man. The moment the black bead appeared in his line of sight, the Nirvana demon flame in Zhuowen's body suddenly became crazy. He knew that the Nirvana demon flame needed this black bead. Forcefully suppressing the commotion of the Nirvana demon flame, Zhuowen said in a low voice, "This is it. Give it to me. If I have guessed correctly, you have barged into the area of heavy criminals by yourself. Although I don't know how you, a mere Void Realm warrior, managed to break into this place, I can sense an inexplicably powerful aura from your body. You must have relied on that aura to barge in." As soon as the black-clothed man finished speaking, the other people in the iron cage looked at Zhuowen in disbelief. They knew that there were 10 young Void Realm warriors in the Hall of Penal Law. Among them, the Hall Master of the Hall of Penal Law was at the peak of the Yang Void Realm. It could be said that the entire Hall of Penal Law was impregnable. A Void Realm warrior was actually able to barge in. At this moment, the other people in the iron cage looked at Zhuowen with reverence instead of fear. They did not expect that a 15-year-old youth in front of them would be able to barge into the Hall of Penal Law alone. In the end, he even managed to barge into the area of heavy criminals. Actually, it is not impossible to give it to you. However, you have to open the cage first and let me out. Then, I will give this evil demonic bead to you. The black-clothed man waved his right hand and put the black bead into his sleeve. A pair of green eyes stared straight at Zhuowen. You probably don't know how to open the cage. Actually. Before the black-clothed man could finish his words, he suddenly stared at the youth who suddenly appeared in front of him. He was so stunned that he could not choke out the rest of his words. He quietly glanced forward and immediately noticed that there was a large hole that was about the height of a person in the iron cage. A trace of cold sweat suddenly appeared on the black-clothed man's back. The material used to make the iron cage was not ordinary iron. It was meteorite, mysterious iron that was taken from a meteorite and forged thousands of times. Its hardness was so high that even a warrior at the peak of the Void Realm would not be able to break it. However, the youth in front of him had casually broken the iron cage. This made the black-clothed man feel a chill in his heart. Although the iron cage was made of extraordinary material, Zhuowen's body had a strange flame like the Nirvana demon flame. Even the so-called meteorite mysterious iron could not escape from the Nirvana demon flame. Originally, the black-clothed man wanted to borrow Zhuowen's hand to release him. At that time, he would personally kill the youth in front of him. Although he was surprised that the youth in front of him could barge into the area of heavy criminals, he thought that the youth in front of him was too young and his strength was definitely not high. Therefore, he felt that he could easily deal with him. However, sometimes, reality was cruel. The black-clothed man once again glanced at the hole in the iron cage. His throat involuntarily moved. The iron cage was something that even he could not break open. However, the youth had actually broken it open. There was only one explanation. The youth's strength was definitely stronger than his. The black-clothed man's throat once again moved when this thought surfaced in his mind. His heart was filled with shock. The iron cage has been opened. Give me the black bead. Zhuowen's expression remained calm from the beginning until the end. He spread his hands and stared at the black-clothed man. Dang dang dang. Hurried footsteps immediately sounded outside the room. Zhuowen's expression changed immediately. He knew that the rescue from the Hall of Punishment was about to arrive. Quickly hand it over to me. Otherwise, die. Zhuowen did not have the time to waste with the black-clothed man. He flipped his right hand and a blazing black flame immediately covered his hand. He stared coldly at the black-clothed man. Oh my God! Nirvana demon flame. Sir, I will hand it over now. Please don't act recklessly. The black-clothed man's expression finally changed drastically when he saw the black flame in Zhuowen's hand. He hurriedly took out the black bead and handed it to Zhuowen. Zhuowen immediately sensed the Nirvana demon flame within his body emitting a joyous hissing sound after receiving the black bead. His expression changed. Zhuowen swiftly took out the Jade Cauldron soul armor from between his brows. The Nirvana demon flame's actual body erupted from the bottom of the Jade Cauldron and instantly wrapped around the black bead. At the same time, it occasionally emitted a joyous hissing sound as though it was enjoying itself. The black-clothed man's pale face instantly became even paler after seeing the actual body of the Nirvana demon flame. The lofty mysterious feeling that was originally created on his body immediately collapsed. He sat on the ground and trembled as he said, "Sir, can I leave now?" "Get lost." "All right, I will get lost now." The black-clothed man hurriedly rolled and crawled out of the iron cage as though he had been relieved of a heavy burden. The other prisoners in the cage also followed and ran out one after another when the black-clothed man fled. Bang! When the black-clothed man ran to the iron door with great difficulty, a powerful force immediately sent the iron door in front of him flying. The black-clothed man was unluckily struck by the iron door. "Zhuowen, you will not be able to escape."